Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. And that is Super Bowl 59 Radio Row in New Orleans. Here on the program, we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, and our coverage live from Radio Row for the Super Bowl, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket. 312 Pizza Company, Cedar Direct, and the new Cumberland.com. Boy, shout out to all the great companies that have joined on for our great coverage from Radio Row today, which will include Michelle Beadle later this hour, which last year we had Beadle on the program, and I was like, I don't know, this is going to go. Let's see. And it turned into apparently being one of the most talked about interviews from Radio Row. So she'll join us coming up. Moose Johnston will join us here on the program today. Rich Gannon will join us on the program today. Warren Moon will join us on the program today. And we will have the TD Power Hour, but at a special time at 4:30, because I will be going on Felger and Maz in Boston at 4 o'clock, and we will be running that right here on the program as well. So I'm sure we'll be talking about Mike Vrabel and all of that. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
So I hate radio hosts who dictate the news cycle. Like a radio, and I shouldn't say a radio host that dictates the news cycle. I actually like that, when the radio host's opinion is what is the news cycle, which has happened around here a couple of times. But what I hate is a radio host who will just refuse to talk about what is a story because either they don't want to talk about it because it doesn't fit their narrative, or because they think it's beneath them and they're above it. And, I don't need to waste my time with these rumors and gossip and drama and everything else. I'm like, you're the radio host. You don't dictate what the news is. You discuss it. That's how this works. So I think we have to talk about this Matthew Stafford thing, I guess. So for a couple of weeks, there have been some of these trickles about, is Matthew Stafford going to play next year for the Rams? Are the Rams going to want Matthew Stafford back? Could Matthew Stafford be available? Matthew Stafford, I think, is due like $26 million next year, which would be a fair price 15 years ago. That is not a fair price today. Matthew Stafford's worth is, Ian, what would you say? If Dak's $60 million a year, he's probably $60 million a year at this point?
No.
You think Dak's better than Stafford?
No, he's not better. I don't think that. No, but he's not. Stafford's not a top of the market quarterback resetter guy at this point.
Well, but again, if Jared Goff is 55, if
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence is 55, Stafford is certainly above 55.
Yeah, he's too old to make that much.
Why?
I mean, maybe he could sign a 1-year deal, but those guys aren't making 1-year 50-something deals. They're making it down the road so they can fit the cap thing in there.
Well, who cares about that?
Exactly. Well, they got to find a way to, finagle the money so it's not a $50 million cap hit or whatever.
My thing is this. If Jordan Love and Tua are 55, Stafford is at least 55.
I was thinking 45 to 50.
I mean, he's
Stafford.
at least 50. I mean, below 50 is insulting. Again, given the quarterbacks that are making plus 50. The point I bring this up is because I don't think Matthew Stafford is going to be available. I don't. I can't get over this idea of why would the Rams let Matthew Stafford go?
That is my thought. Like, who's their quarterback supposed to be?
Who's going to be their quarterback? And they're trying to win. Like, this is the Rams. They were in the divisional round of the playoffs. They were right there against the team that is representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. Like, it's not like the Rams are where the Titans are. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And again, the Rams too. When has money ever been a problem for the Rams? So I struggle with that. And then why would Matthew Stafford want to play for the Titans? That's never made any sense to me. The Titans are terrible. The offensive line's awful. They don't have receivers. They got a coach who Stafford has been with before, but it's not as if, as Mad Dog Russo said on our program the other day, it's not as if he's exactly Vince Lombardi right now. So, I mean, maybe it's, hey, give me $50 million with no state income tax, even though I've made $364 million in my career. Give me another 50 with no state income tax, and I'll go get my rear end kick behind Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a. PT. I'll go get my butt kicked behind PT, and I'll live with it. So this Matthew Stafford to the Titans thing seems like such a freaking pipe dream. It seems like such an impossibility. And yet, the scuttlebutt around here is Matthew Stafford might actually be available. And now Matthew Stafford's wife has a podcast, and she's a veteran at this too, folks. She knows what she's doing. This is Kelly Stafford on her podcast about the current negotiations or situation surrounding Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams.
Wasn't planning on discussing this, but hell, why not? My husband wants to win. He's not trying to put a team in a bad situation. If you're catching my drift, you're catching my drift. I will say that the trading away of Cooper, I guess I'm just I'm confused because we were one play away from going to the NFC Championship. And I think if we go, we win. I have to be the dog in this situation, being like, I want the respect for him that he deserves. Yes, I love the city of LA. I love the city of LA. With that being said, I love an adventure.
Okay. So that was what they put together, this compilation of Kelly Stafford. I actually heard another cut too, in which she said something along the lines of, I was devastated about the idea of leaving Detroit. I am not devastated about the idea of living LA. I've already done it. I've got 4 girls who have been through it before, and I think the line she said was, I have 4 girls they have 4 best friends. I'm like, actually, that would be 3 because each girl doesn't count as her own friend, but that's a different discussion. So I guess we have to talk about it. But I think this is ridiculous. I think it is ridiculous that the LA Rams would not have Matthew Stafford as their quarterback. Is Matthew Stafford an old pawpaw? Of course he's an old pawpaw, but he's still a good old pawpaw. And not only that, they were right on the doorstep, right on the doorstep of making it. They were right there. Now, again, I'm not going to be her and say, I think if we win that game in Philadelphia, we win against Washington. Hold up now. Let's play the football game and then let's decide from there. But I see what she's saying. And so I'm like, why would the Rams let go of Stafford? Who's going to be their quarterback? They're right there knocking on the door. Somebody help me out here. That one I seem to struggle with. And then the second thing, again, would be, why would Stafford want to play for the Titans? You know me, I'm normally hey, these guys want to play because they want the money. That's why. When you ask me, why would this L'Jarius Sneed want to play for the Titans? It's because he's already won the Super Bowl. He wants the money. That's why. But Matthew Stafford doesn't necessarily need the money. So I just don't see this happening. I don't see Stafford going anywhere. I don't see Stafford wanting to go anywhere. Here's what I think's happened. I think that last year there was a kind of a bitter contract negotiation between Stafford and the Rams, where Stafford signed an extension a couple of years ago, so they had him under contract, and Stafford wanted a pay bump to be in line with the rest of the quarterbacks, and the Rams gave him a little bit of a pay bump, but not a huge pay bump. Well, so, okay, fine. We settle it for a year, and then next year we'll get back to negotiating, and I think Stafford's digging in. I think both sides know Stafford's going to be a Ram. I think both sides know the Rams will have to pay more than the $26 million in cash that's due to them. I think they know that. So, that being said, I do not think that I am the Messiah as far as what gets talked about or what is a possibility. I don't see it happening. I don't think it'll happen. Ian, I think I've already guaranteed that Matthew Stafford is not going to.
Yes, you have.
Is it that he's going to be on the Rams, or is it that he's not going to leave? That he's not going to be with the Titans?
It is that he will return to the Rams.
He'll return to the Rams. I've already guaranteed it. But guess what? It does seem like there's a little smoke.
That was last Thursday.
It does seem like there's a little smoke. So we got to talk about it. Matthew Stafford to the Titans. Is it a possibility? I think no. I'm sure some of you, though, think that there's a legit chance this is going to happen. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company. We are live out at Radio Row. Michelle Beadle will join us. Mad Dog Sports Radio at Sirius XM right next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. All right, we are live out of Radio Row. It's Super Bowl 59 here on the program, and our coverage presented by, let me make sure I get this all right. Our coverage here on the program presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, 312 Pizza, Cedar Direct, and the new Cumberland.com. We are joined now by somebody who was one of our favorite guests last year. I was actually a little surprised. Like, I didn't know how it was all going to go down. Like, I must have said something amazing. Well, I was like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know what Michelle Beadle and I are going to talk about. It ended up being one of the more exciting and entertaining ones that we had pretty much the entire week. So Michelle Beadle and her partner, Cody Decker,
we're sharing a mic.
Yo!
The Beadle and Decker program on Mad Dog Sports Radio. They were kind enough to get me a mug, which I am showing on the stream right now or whatever. You know, in a lot of people's houses, they probably look at it and say, like, hey, this is a mug. This is actually a mug that it means something in my house.
I feel very good about that. Thank you. That I'm honored, and we absolutely designed it ourselves. It's pathetic.
We wanted to do something because when people have merch, we're very envious, and we thought, well, we'll just do it ourselves.
So you made your own Beadle and Decker merch.
Yes.
So I have to ask this, though. When you guys are on vacation, what's the favorite fill-in that you guys would ever have that would – is there like one particular that you just love the most? Or
Jeff Schwartz comes to mind.
Oh, God.
Jeff Schwartz comes to mind. Maybe.
Who are our fill-in? I've never met any.
Lundy, the great Lundy. He's sometimes nice.
This is your favorite right here?
And some others. There's some others.
Who's last
We
place?
love you.
That's okay.
It's you. Who
That's
else would it be?
You know what? It's okay. I understand where my place is behind Lundy and behind Jeff Schwartz.
No, I just have to say nice things about Lundy because they make me like work with him on occasions, and it's not true.
I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, I want to start with this, which is last year we talked a lot about like the state of television and where this was all headed and like all the TV studio talent and all the. I feel like there are more shows here and like more like channels that I don't even know exist. Like
in this
where?
room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
where do I find the? Like I understand when it's like, hey, this is 98.7 The Eagle in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I get it. I know where you can find that.
Yeah.
But like they got all these giant freaking video boards and sets, and I'm like, where do I watch the DraftKings TV net? What is all
I don't
this?
know.
Like, so where is this?
You know what I feel bad about is I see some of these flashing lights and I know these people personally and I don't know where to watch this stuff. So I just kind of feel like, you know what? I know that my friends aren't watching my stuff. They know I'm not watching their stuff. As long as we're all being paid and we can get our bills done, I don't care.
I do know where I can find your show on NBA TV.
Yeah, FanDuel TV and MDA TV. Thank you for the
plug. Oh, it's on NBA TV too?
Yeah, we're
I
moving on up, Stillman.
So I got to tell you something. I actually am glad that you brought this up because I did want to talk to you about this.
Okay.
I'm not going to say I hate the NBA. At this point,
that was a good start.
But I am starting to think that, like, the NBA has never made more money. Like, there's never been a time where, like, if you wanted to say the NBA is struggling, there's no way to argue that because of the amount of money that they're making.
Correct.
But at the same time, like, I do feel like a decline in interest. And my theory is I hear Adam Silver talking about shortening the quarters, and I hear all these whatever. This is going to sound rude, but I think the players don't care enough about the games or their own teams. And if the players don't care about the games and their own teams, why should I care about the games and their own teams?
I mean, look, I understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand why or when people say this because I hear it all the time, right? I mean, we have a caller, Dirty Bill, that literally calls just to tell me I'm dumb for loving the NBA, and then we laugh. But it is. I do think the product on the court, and I think what people are doing is they're taking the worst possible moments from games and then comparing it to I don't even know what their memories are. But there are some beautiful games being played. SGA in 7 days or 15 days has had 3 50-plus point games, and he's beautiful to watch. He's sort of like the second coming of Kevin Durant when he was young. It's like poetry in motion. Yeah, sure, you could say some players don't care. I don't agree that all of them don't. I really don't. And I think there's a new generation of guys coming up. The Anthony Edwards, the SGAs, the Wembys, who are going to be here for a while, who really care. Anthony Edwards is like almost an old school throwback, the way he thinks of the game and the way he talks into a microphone even. So I get it, but I also think having the trade deadline that we just had also is going to move some pieces around. It's like a new influx of energy, and yeah, I love it still. I truly do.
Are any of these guys going to be like the next Michael Jordan, though, where it's like, oh, man, get to the – Caitlin Clark is that right now for the WNBA. Like, is there going to be one of those?
Wemby is. And that's not just me being a Spurs homer. He's 7'5", and he's doing things we've literally never seen before.
I don't know if you heard, but Luka's a Laker and he's 25 years old. Luka is going to be the Michael Jordan.
You mean the guy that's been in the league for 7 years and still hasn't won a championship, or no? Is there a different?
Well,
is it
wasn't Michael?
Is it Luka Smith or?
Now he's on the right team now. Now it's going to happen.
Yeah, with
Well,
the 40-year-old.
wasn't Jordan
40-year-old.
in the league for like 7 years or so?
Yeah,
41?
but Jordan had the work ethic that we still talk about in 2025.
Okay, so I have a theory on this. I have a theory. Cody Decker, Michelle Beadle,
Oh,
Beadle
yeah.
and Decker on Mad Dog Sports Radio with us on the program. I have a theory that, look, sometimes, and I think we know in sports, you played, like, sometimes, there's that guy that eats themselves out of the league that doesn't have the work ethic, doesn't care,
True.
doesn't all these things. But every now and then there's someone that's just so transcendent that they can be fat and be good. Babe Ruth is an example.
Baseball.
Like Babe Ruth was fat. Like he was fat. He would eat like hot dogs during the game.
This is
And
factual.
chug beers and drink bourbon like
Purely-
during batting practice. And
Purely factual.
it didn't matter. And I think that this Luka Doncic, again, I'm not the biggest NBA guy in the world, but I did watch him last year in the playoffs. I think this guy just might be a good fatty.
And not only that, he's moving to LA where there aren't a ton of fat people. He's going to be eating right. No. Now he's going to be eating right. He's going to get that revenge body. I'm telling you, Michelle doesn't see what the future is. He's going to have like 8-pack abs next year. Shaq came heavy too. Remember that? When he came from the Magic, he was heavy. He got in shape.
So I actually read the book on that. Apparently Phil Jack, he like went to Montana to go meet with Phil. And Phil told him, was like, how much do you weigh? And Shaq was like, 3, whatever. And Phil goes, lose 15. And like sent him back to LA from Montana. Like, thanks for coming out to meet me, lose 15. See you.
Awesome.
Amazing.
And
that's-
mean. And catty, and I like it.
Well, but I mean, again, I'm not even worried about this guy like losing weight or anything. Like, I think he might just be good and be fat
But
and
by
be
the
good
way,
at being
so
fat.
it's not about like, I don't care what he looks like or soft, not soft, what have you. It's not really about that. It's more about, all right, he's going to start getting these injuries, right? So he's got these ankle issues, or he's got this foot issue, or now he's got the calf strain. We all know that if you're not in the best shape you can be in, these types of things are going to be more aggravated, and they're going to happen more and more often. You're not going to heal as fast. So I think that's really all people are wanting is like the conditioning. Like you need to put
Babe
your
Ruth
body
didn't
in
have
the
that
best.
problem.
Babe Ruth played baseball. There's no running in baseball.
There is absolutely running in baseball.
Did Babe Ruth need to run?
No, because he hit home runs.
Exactly. So you can be fat. That is not this.
Okay, so do you guys buy the conspiracy theories? There are 2 separate kinds now. There is the conspiracy theory with the Chiefs and the referees. Do you guys buy those conspiracy theories at all?
No, and trust me, I should. I'm a Raider fan. I should hate the Chiefs for this reason. But no, come on. They don't draw as many penalties as even the Bills this year. That is just factually accurate.
I can't. I can't care about it because it's boring. I don't love ref talk. Now, when it's egregious, sure, we're all like sort of, that might not have been the best one, but no.
Also, are we really giving the NFL this much credit that they can pull off this incredible conspiracy without NFL can't
Is it
shut
an
up?
incredible conspiracy?
That they were able to quietly get the referees and no one talk about it? Come on.
Do you buy it?
Way too much credit.
No, here's
You thought about it. Whoa.
So here's what my thing was like. The Bills got the benefit of an incredible pass interference call right before the end of the half against the Ravens.
That is true.
And it led to a touchdown. They won by 2 points. Like, if that doesn't happen, you could argue that call changed game. But because it was the Bills and not the Chiefs, it happened. It was a bad call in live time. Gene Steratore on TV's like, I don't think that's a good call, Tony. And then we all moved on with our lives.
Mm-hmm.
If that had been the Chiefs, it would have been, oh, God, the NFL's in the bag.
Yep.
And so that's why I don't totally buy it. Do you guys buy the Nico Harrison conspiracy theories that he's in the bag for the Lakers and that's why he made the trade?
No.
Wait, hold on. That's not the conspiracy I thought you were going to do. I thought you were going to do the one where the Adelson family wants, because they don't think that Texas is going to get legalized or they can't build their gambling compound, that they're tanking the Mavericks to move to Vegas. So that's a different, I don't even know.
That's a hot take right there.
Yeah, that's which, well, I don't know. You got the Wizards that are right there. You move them to Vegas. They could go tomorrow. Nobody would care. But that's an interesting one. Why would Nico Harrison want to help the Lakers?
I don't know. I think you're the basketball guys.
Well, he's being reunited with AD. He brought AD, which is one of his original like Nike kids. He was a kid back in the day. God, these conspiracies are good. These are things I think about.
Are there any conspiracies that you guys buy?
Yeah, we didn't land on the moon, but what else?
I think we landed on the moon.
Oh, really? Tell me where the shadows came from,
do
geniuses.
I do think that Michael Jordan. Like, I have a hard time believing that 2-year baseball hiatus was just I'm playing baseball.
I'm not going to lie to you.
That's fair.
That is a very good conspiracy theory that I occasionally dabble in mentally.
I'm a little back and forth on it too.
Yeah.
The Last Dance was very convincing that was
Yes.
fake, but at the same time, I'm like,
But also, like, there's a lot of coincidences right here, huh?
we got Michelle Beadle, Cody Decker with us on the program.
He's listening.
Mad Dog Sports Radio here on the show. Okay, is Nashville evolved now to the point that I may never have to move for my career, or has it not?
Wow.
I think you have. I think Nashville. I mean, they're probably gonna get a Major League Baseball team in the next 10 years, if I were to assume. The Titans obviously are not having their greatest seasons right now, but I do think that Nashville has become a destination city. More people have moved there. It's Nash Vegas, as people call it. I mean, in LA, people go over to Vegas. Oh, out on the East Coast, everybody goes to Nashville. I think Nashville is not one of those like secondary cities anymore. Nashville is a big ass city.
Big ass city. No, I think. Do you want to move?
I mean, I had a kid 8 weeks ago, so
Wow, muzzle.
thank you.
Yeah.
So like,
You look great.
thank you. It's the baby fat's still on there though. We're just hiding it with all the black. But I mean, no,
You thinking? Yeah.
no.
No.
Like, I mean,
If you're happy where you are, that's a very rare thing. So I would embrace that.
well, the difference is you're like redefining yourself in your second act. I feel like this is your.
It's a
second
little
act.
too much flying for my act, if I'm being honest. Back and forth, New York, LA is a lot. It's a lot. But then again, if I only had the one, I'd probably miss the other. So it's kind of one of those weird things. But I like the idea of loving where you live and not moving.
I'm just saying, like, you've been as far as like in this industry, like where you can get like,
Yeah, the top of the mountain, baby.
and doesn't sound like you really enjoyed it that much. But
Times of it I did.
so this is like, I feel like for Michelle Beadle, this is your second act where you're like, okay, now I'm going to do more of the things that I want to do as
Yeah.
opposed to like what's going to pay me the best or what like somebody like
Yeah,
an
I'm doing
agent
this
or
for
someone would
free
tell me to
almost.
do.
Yeah, no.
Like that kind of thing. And, for me, I would like to hope that like, I mean, I would like to hope that I'm like on the ascent
Of
at
course.
some level or another. So I'm like, I would love to live the rest of my life in Nashville and never have to move. And yet at the same time, like, who knows? I feel like all I
like
have to do
this.
is just keep waiting, and then it just keeps going up in market size. Like over the last 10 years, it's gone up
100%.
like every 2 years.
No, and they add sports, and also it's like look at some of the biggest names in radio, especially. Like they did whatever they did, but then now they basically built studios in their homes where they want to live, and that's it. And they're doing the biggest shows that you can have, which I think is one of the best parts about like now versus 15 years ago. The fact that that's even an option, and you don't have to trek in and out of some studio. Like it's kind of you found a place you love. Just keep doing that.
So you know how we gossip about like players in their careers and
Sure.
like, oh, is this guy done? Is that guy done? Is this?
Ooh,
I feel like it's sometimes we should be able to gossip about like our own industry.
let's
and
do
things
it.
like
Who are we talking about?
Is
Am I
Skip,
done?
is Skip Bayless done?
Yes. Who else?
Oh, thank God.
Why could he like not, when he was with Shannon Sharp, like there was some juice there. Like they were getting, and as soon as Shannon Sharp left, he went down the toilet. Shannon is like skyrocketed to the top.
You know what's weird about this conversation? Because I actually don't understand why any of it was a thing to begin with. Because there's not shows I watch, right? They're not. I'm not the demo. Is how I've basically looked at it up until this point. Skip. I would like to think we've evolved our brains a little bit, where like just saying outrageous things for the sake of a hot take, like who's buying? Why is that entertaining to anyone? I've never gotten it. I
So
never
you
have.
don't believe that he believes those things because I get accused a lot of he doesn't
can't-
believe
he
that,
can't.
and I'm like, I do believe it. Like
I
I'm telling
believe you
right
believe
now.
what you say.
Thank you.
I don't. I mean, some of the stuff Skip has said. How could he believe some of the stuff he said?
My least favorite thing is hot take radio and hot take TV because you're just playing for clicks. It's my least favorite thing about humanity right now.
So that's why I'm your least favorite fill-in then, is because I'm definitely up there.
no,
on
because
the-
you believe what
No.
you're saying.
Lundy has some weird hot
You
takes.
kidding me? He comes out with these weird rap hot takes, and people get after me about my rap hot takes. Get out of here! You
Here's
heard
what
Lundy
I've learned
talk.
about me, and this is where I feel the difference between doing local radio and Sirius, which is on a local standpoint, like I just call out bullcrap. Like
Sure.
if I think someone's lying, like I get mad. Like I when I feel like someone is insulting my intelligence
Mhm.
or insulting the fans' intelligence, like I get very upset about it.
As you should.
So like when the Titans or the Predators or one of the local colleges, like I'm all about it again because the people that listen are fans of the team. It's like, well, that's our team. You don't put our team that kind of thing. When I'm on Sirius and I'm sitting here talking about Jerry Jones was never going to hire a real coach, guys. Like he was never going to hire a real coach. He was never going to pay real coach money.
Nope.
And he was never going to give up the attention of being like, if Mike Vrabel's the coach of the Cowboys or if Deion Sanders is the coach of the Cowboys, like Jerry's not giving them that kind of attention. So it's never going to happen. He was always going to hire some Scarbini. And like, that was always going to be what happened. But like everybody who's not a Cowboy fan, 99% of the country is like, yeah.
Hercules.
So when I call out like Aaron Rodgers, the same way I call out like a Titan quarterback, there's kind of more of like a, yeah. But again, it's the same level of take radio. Like it's the same heat on the
pool's
fastball.
Different. There's more diversity in the pool. So it's like now the chances are you're not the fans of that said team. There's a lot of other ones that are definitely not fans of that said team. So I think that's the beauty of that. I get what you're saying. Like first of all, hating Aaron Rodgers is one of the easier things that life's ever given us at this point in the game. So the fact that we can't all just bond on that is silly. We should always bond on that.
Yeah,
it's an easy one.
And the other thing is like the adversarial nature you bring up, like Skip. I just don't like those shows. Two guys sitting at the other end of the table and yelling at each other over whether or not LeBron is better than Jordan. I'm exhausted.
Actually, that's not my biggest thing. I know. Look, my brother used to be close to Skip when he would work at ESPN and do stuff. And my thing with Skip is, what's the deal with the selfies with the shoes?
I think you brought that up last year.
Because it's bothered me my whole life.
And the turtlenecks. Why the turtlenecks?
Well, I can tell you as someone who's aging, turtlenecks are good because the neck gives it away. But
Well,
we all don't know how old he is without that.
And if you don't want to wear a tie, like the turtleneck allows you. To try to get away with
Okay.
that.
He's off the hook for the turtlenecks now.
Okay, I have another theory. And I got, again, you played baseball. So you're a baseball guy because you played baseball.
Yes.
You are really a basketball person.
I love it.
Like, can we say that? Like,
Yeah,
you're a
no, it's my
basketball person.
favorite. It's my favorite.
I think that when I was a kid, we as American sports fans used to care about football.
Mhm.
Then after football, we care about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Then after basketball, we care about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And then right around the middle of baseball, we'd start caring about football again. And
Yep.
we care about baseball and football kind of equally during the playoffs. And then we go back to caring about football.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that anymore as American sports fans. I think we care about football.
Okay.
And then I think we care about our team. So like I like the Atlanta Braves. And I care about the Atlanta Braves. But I do not think that outside of Shohei Ohtani going to prison, because I think he probably was involved in all
There
that
we go.
stuff.
Now we're talking.
Now we got the conspiracies we want.
Outside of that, I don't think there is a single Major League Baseball story of like actual baseball playing that anybody seems to care about anymore. It drives me
Interesting.
crazy. Like, and the biggest metric that I feel like I have is the reaction that I get when I'm on that, like, in the middle of the summer, if I'm like, so-and-so ranks Matthew Stafford as the 7th best quarterback ahead of Jaden Daniels, it'll be people from all over the country will be calling in, complaining, bitching. Like, if I'm like, man, I'll tell you, the New York Mets are red hot. They've won 6 straight. They look like they might nothing.
Really?
Crickets.
Yeah.
I guess it's just where you're located and whatever. When we're in New York, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I know we're based in New York. We're not necessarily a New York-based show, though, national show. We talk Mets. We get 5 to 10 calls on the Mets for some reason. Like, I don't know. What do you think of that, Michelle? We always get baseball calls.
Look, I can go just off of my own what I care about. And I'm kind of with you because for me, it's like I'm keeping up with the baseball because of the transactions and like the signings and the amounts of money that are astronomical. It sort of makes your brain hurt. But then I really don't care again until we get close to the playoffs and then the playoffs themselves. So I kind of buy it. I mean, and I used to be a diehard baseball fan. That was like my thing. But yeah, I think our attention spans are, it's simple for me. There are too many other things. So like, even if you just wanted to binge 17 shows, like in 90 hours straight on Netflix, well, that's something I kind of want to do too. So we have too many things going on.
But what's the
100%.
one thing every single person watches?
Football.
Football.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And I love football. Like, I've never experienced it where I'm like, these other sports just across the country. Like, I bet you, like, if we were in a production meeting at SportsCenter or something like that, we were to say, okay, let's just do the whole show on football.
Yeah.
They would be like, that'll rate higher than if we showed these Angel and
Yep.
Brewer highlights.
God, that's-
It's just factual. But I also what Michelle said. There's just too many things to do right now. Like when Doggy talks about the ratings and things, it always makes me laugh because he's like, oh no, it's 1977. 75 million people watched that World Series, and then only 19 last year. And I'm like, there were 3 channels, Doggy. That's all was available. Like I have more channels on my cell phone than I'll ever know what to do. It's impossible to kind of stay locked into baseball all the time.
All right, so then here's the last question I have for you guys. Cody Decker, Michelle Beadle and Decker on Mad Dog Sports Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 82. It's a great channel. Which sport in America do you think is more popular, the NBA or Major League Baseball?
NBA.
A basketball person is going to say NBA 100 times out of 100.
Even the circle of people I have in my life, they would watch way more basketball than any baseball.
If you asked me this question before last season, I would have said NBA 100%. This last Major League Baseball season, that World Series we got, Dodgers, Yankees, playoffs, that whole season, everything that was accomplished by Judge, everything was accomplished by Ohtani through the year, I think right now, narrowly baseball.
So my thing is, if you look at the ratings for the World Series and the NBA Finals, they're pretty even, and baseball's going up against football when that's on, whereas there's nothing during the summer. I mean, I think the NBA became popular because there was nothing on to watch except Magic versus Bird in like the 80s.
But that's also fun to watch. Those two are fun to watch, and then we got Michael Jordan that carried us through.
Right, and now it's like, is Kawhi going to play in this random playoff game that you may not be able to watch because it's on a concocted channel that you don't know where to find it?
You need to watch Wemby and Giannis play.
No, you know what's crazy is people in like Tennessee get screwed because if the Grizzlies make the playoffs, they put like the game on local TV, but they'll put it on NBA TV, but they'll black it out on NBA TV.
I hate that.
And most people don't have like the local channel that watches the games. It's wild.
That's the thing. San Antonio had that issue too for like when it's Bally's. Like you had to basically have an entirely different app, which was like, and by the way, back then, you want to hear how bad their system was? Because my billing address is in LA, I could not buy the Bally's app to watch Spurs games at all when I was in Texas because they're like, you had to be like Texas based to get. Dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
So what'd you do? Like Adam Schefter, did you pirate it?
No, I had to ask my brother. I was like, can you put your credit card on this damn Bally's thing? God. That's embarrassing. He thought I was broke. I was like, no, you have to have a
talk about a fall from grace.
He's like, I know you're not there anymore, but geez, did you save anything?
Michelle Beadle just asked me for my Bally's password.
Beadle, what's next for you?
A nap.
No, I don't mean nap. I mean in life.
Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna go home to Texas after this for a couple weeks, and we're gonna keep doing FanDuel. And we're gonna keep doing this, and I guess NBA All-Star. I know you'll be watching.
Oh my God, I'm so excited! It's the best All-Star game out there. Cody Decker, Michelle Beadle. Again, they got me this very nice Mad Dog Sports Radio Beadle and Decker mug.
Pretty good.
I'm gonna need a hat also sent as well.
I'm on it.
Stillman and Company. We continue 102.5 The Game. Stillman & Company live out at Radio Row. Again, I want to thank Michelle Beadle, Cody Decker from Mad Dog Sports Radio coming on our program. And I have to say that the Beadle interviews, Ian, every year are probably one of my favorite. I don't know why.
Good.
But, I mean, I was honestly, we were even, I don't know if you were listening, but like we were even talking about this like after they were off the air. So I have a hot take. I think more people that are football first fans. Like I'm a football first fan. I like baseball more than basketball. I think more people that are football first fans like baseball second ahead of basketball. Now, again, at a different time, maybe it was a little different. One person's mad that we had Michelle Beadle on the show. Why? Because of something she said about football like 10 years ago? One texter says, I sound like woke Joe Rexroad with that horrible Otani take. I don't even know what that was. One texter says, Dylan in Antioch says, I didn't even know who SGA is. So I think that's the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander that played at Kentucky. But I will be honest with you, I have no idea if he's good or not good. I don't keep up with it. I'm not interested. And again, I just don't think the players care. And until we get a Michael Jordan that makes me turn on the TV to watch, I'm not going to pretend like I care about the NBA playoffs just because it's there. All right, back to the Stafford phone. 615-737-1025. Again, Matthew Stafford's wife is now publicly bitching about the Rams. So throw that into the fact that Albert Breer said that Stafford might be available. Charles Robinson was on Robbie and Joe this morning, said something about it. We have to talk about it. We'll get to your phones on it next. Stillman & Company, live from Radio Row, 1025 The Game, 615-737-1025, which is our phone number here on the program. Duncan fans, come experience the new age of Duncan at the grand opening of their newly remodeled Brentwood location at 4930 Thoroughbred Lane tomorrow morning. Duncan will be giving away 100 days of free coffee for the first 100 guests in line starting at 8 a.m. Plus, Robbie and Rexroad will be broadcasting live from 6 to 9, and we'll have Preds tickets to give away. Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, we are live out at Radio Row here at Super Bowl 59, and we are joined by Daryl Moose Johnson, the president, I believe, of the UFL?
Executive Vice President.
Executive Vice President. So who's above you for the president?
That would be Russ Brandon, the old team president for the Buffalo Bills, who's got decades plus in the NFL in the front office.
So I do actually have a UFL take I want to get to with you in a second, but you did a couple of Titans games this year for Fox.
I did.
How painful was that for you, and how far away are the Titans, and do you understand the level of depression that we all carry with us in Nashville?
I am a Dallas Cowboy fan struggling over the last 30 years, so I can relate to the frustration that you have, but last year was a very challenging season. But I do believe that Brian Callahan has a plan, to bring Tennessee out of this and get them moving forward. The big question is, what do we do at quarterback? I think that is their biggest challenge right now, especially with this draft, because there's a mixed opinion on the value of the quarterbacks that are near the top of the rankings as we come into the draft this year. So who's out there as a stopgap and a free agency opportunity that you could use to wait for a better quarterback draft to come up down the years? So, I mean, I think that has to be the biggest thing. Similar to what Brian went through with Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, is first year is tough. You got Andy Dalton, you're trying to make that work. It doesn't work, but then here comes Joe Burrow, and you've got the first pick in the draft. So the timing worked out great for him there. It's not going to happen this year for Tennessee. So, what are your thoughts going into it? But I just think that because Brian's kind of been through something similar, talking to him last year, you can see that there's a plan. There's thought down the road. I was very impressed coming out of it, even though it was a really hard season for you guys. I really felt of the coaches that we visited with that had teams going through tough years early on in the process, this was one that had kind of a different vibe to us. So there's an understanding of the challenge to get better in a turnaround, in a rebuild, and they understand that part, and they're being very calculated as they move forward.
It sounds like you're really in on Callahan just based off of your experience, spending time with him, but more so probably watching how, because you guys get access that like we don't get. They'll sit down with you guys and they will probably let you in a little bit more on the game plan before you're doing a game on Fox. They'll probably tell you guys things that maybe they wouldn't tell us locally, wouldn't tell like the masses, just to give you guys on the broadcast some context clues about things that are. And just listening to you talk about Brian Callahan, it seems like you are very impressed.
I am. It's not easy to go through a season like that. And there were some times when he was frustrated and he lost his cool a little bit. But I like that. Like it happened in Vegas. Antonio Pierce, he called this guy soft. Don't backtrack off that. Every once in a while, people need to hear, I'm not happy with how you're playing. It was not all flowers and sunshine with Jimmy Johnson around us, especially at 1-15. And then starting out the following season at 3-7. That's to go 4-22 over 2 years and you're not playing well. You're not getting a lot of pats on the back. So sometimes I'm just like, hey, you want better conversation? Go play better. And sometimes hard conversations have to happen. And it's one of the big things. It's been a topic around here over the last couple of days as I've been talking, because we got the whole Luka Doncic thing going on in Dallas. And to find out that the general manager of the basketball team is not having conversations and hard conversations with the star player on the team is frustrating to me. And to find out that maybe there was not good conversations going on, with Dallas as they tried to find their next head coach, whether it's going to be Mike McCarthy, whether you're going to go in a different direction, is there not conversation going on there? And one thing that I like about Brian is I'm going to have those. We're going to have those conversations. And you've got some good leadership on the defensive side. It's just Bill Callahan. If you need your offensive line fixed, I don't know if there's a better guy out there right now to fix it. You need to upgrade the talent, but that group at times played reasonable. And they weren't going to be great last year. You've got one position, that right tackle position was a thorn in the side the entire season, but they got better in other areas. And so I think that there's some promise there. That's the biggest thing. And unless you have a Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you better have a damn good offensive line. And that's what Philadelphia has. And that's been the crazy thing about the Chiefs is how does Patrick Mahomes do this all the time? Because that Chiefs offensive line has not been good for 2 seasons. And
They don't have a left tackle. They have a bad right tackle.
exactly. And those are some of the most important positions in the NFL. And yet here's this guy making this whole thing work, getting a team back-to-back Super Bowls with edges that are unprotected.
Moose Johnson's our guest here on the program. I do wonder, is Will Levis done being a starter? Like you did a couple games, probably some of his worst performances, the Jacksonville game where they didn't score a touchdown, and the Green Bay game where he threw a touchdown right to Jair Alexander. Is he done as a starter, or did the Titans set him up to fail?
I don't know how you set somebody up to fail. I mean, there's throws that he made in the games that we did that you just wonder what did you see? Where were your eyes on that throw? How come you didn't see that? Because it looks like you threw it right to that guy. You cannot make mistakes in critical areas, and you cannot repeat catastrophic mistakes later in the season. You can have the conversation about just don't try to do too much. Don't take a bad play and make it a game-changing play. And yet he did that multiple times. If you're not learning from your mistakes, then I got to move on from you. So I don't think they put him in a position to fail. It was going to be challenging, but I think Will Levis has to own the majority of the struggles last year offensively.
When it comes to the quarterback position for the Titans, a lot of people that have been around here say the quarterbacks in the class aren't good enough. The typical Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, top of the draft kind of guys. Sam Darnold had a resurgence in Minnesota. It doesn't sound like they're going to tag him, which means he might be a straight free agent. Is it as simple as go get Sam, put him at quarterback, and be done with it, or is it more complicated than that?
I think it's more complicated than that. Do you have the pieces in place, and they may have those. Kevin O'Connell is unique. He's very unique, and the instruction and the coaching and the teaching that they surround the quarterback in Minnesota with is very unique.
Can I stop you there, though, for a second, Moose? Because you just told me about how much you were impressed with Brian Callahan. And everybody tells me, well, Andy Reid makes it work with Alex Smith because he's Andy Reid. And Kevin O'Connell makes it work with Sam Darnold because he's Kevin O'Connell. Shouldn't I want Brian Callahan to be able to do the same things?
Yes, you should. Yes, you should. He did that with Joe Burrow, but we're talking about, completely different talent sets. Sam Darnold is not Joe Burrow.
I mean, I think I could coach Joe Burrow. Ed Orgeron coached Joe Burrow.
My point on Sam Darnold is he had a hell of a regular season, but he had a terrible end of the season and playoffs. So is there a ceiling that he's already met in his ability as a starting quarterback? So to me, is Sam Darnold the guy you want to go after? And when somebody is unique, when I say that Kevin O'Connell and the people that he surrounds the quarterback position with are unique, that's not saying that Brian Callahan is not very good at doing that same thing and has the ability to do that same thing. The Sean McVay tree is just it's unique. I sat with Liam Cohen this year, and he's the new head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who you have in your division now. Get ready, because this guy has that whisperer mentality as well, and that skill set. It's just unique. It doesn't. I don't want to disparage somebody when I compliment somebody else, and I think that happens sometimes. I do think that if Sam Darnold was to come to Tennessee, there's an opportunity for him to play well, but you saw what happened with him in the Jets. You saw what happened to him in Carolina. When he doesn't have the great teaching and the great coaching behind him, he's not a great quarterback. When you get him there and you have the people that can teach, that have success, they've been there before, it's still early in Brian Callahan's opportunity to coach, that position with good players. I mean, Joe Burrow, to your point, is phenomenal, and he gets better every year. That would be my biggest thing. What is the drive in this player? Because you got to be wired different. When you first sat down with Joe Burrow, I met him in year 2. And he's a different guy. He is driven. He is focused. He's very unique as a young player in this league back there in year 2. So they were going to have success with him. So Brian has experienced that, and it's just leaning on it, but understanding Sam Darnold is not Joe Burrow. And so don't expect him to have the type of offenses that he had in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, bringing in a Sam Darnold or Russell Wilson, anybody. Joe Burrow is unique. I mean, he's the one guy that has stopped Mahomes.
Daryl Moose Johnson with us on the program. when it comes to the Titans, most people around here that aren't in Nashville think the Titans made a horrible mistake firing Mike Vrabel. Do you share that thought that the Titans will rue the day that they fired Mike Vrabel and that Mike Vrabel will go light it up in New England?
I think that a lot of teams in the NFL have become extremely impatient. There's a lot of wealth in the NFL now. There's not a lot of patience. They want success immediately. And that we go back to the Dallas Cowboy thing. That's why you don't hire Mike McCarthy, but you stay in-house, because you don't want to go back to square one, because now you're looking at a 2, 3, 4 year rebuild and getting everything reset again. So, that's the decision you have to make. Is this a down year? What do you take the time to take a step back and look at it from 30,000 feet and go, okay, that makes sense. We had a tough year because that happened. You don't have Dak Prescott. You don't have Micah Parsons. Your offensive line is beat up in training camp. Your defensive line is beat up as the season starts, and yet you're struggling, and you manage to hang together through the end of the season. That, to me, earns Mike McCarthy another opportunity to coach. He was 12-5 for 3 consecutive years. You got to figure out a way to do better in the playoffs. But those are the decisions. I don't really know the whole sequence of Mike Vrabel and his time. I know he came in and they hit the ground running and they ran fast. So if you have that decline on the backside, okay, what was it? What happened here? Why were we not playing to the level that we were playing for or playing at before? So that to me, the entire NFL has gotten incredibly impatient, to the point where the Giants, are you going to move on from your head coach and your general manager? And when they decide not to, when the organization decides that we're going to go one more year here, and everybody loses their minds, it's like, all right, if you're going to start over from scratch, number one, where are you going to go? Are you willing to go out? Are you going to get Vrabel? Are you going to get Ben Johnson? Who's the guy that's going to replace Brian Dable, that's going to come in here and reset this whole process back to square one? Or do you feel like you've added some pieces? You need a quarterback as well. And that is, to me, that's one of the biggest things in all these conversations that we have, because it always comes back to the quarterback. And this draft class is nothing like last year. You made the point. You can go back and look at it. Listen, Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, I'm excited to see what happens there in Chicago. Jaden Daniels, freak, unbelievable. Bo Nix, I think he may be the class of that class, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does with Sean Payton. We got to see Michael Penix. Michael Penix played well. Drake May, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Drake May there. And we haven't seen J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota, who's working with Kevin O'Connell. So last year was just such a freakish quarterback class. And now I think we're going to look at a couple of years where we really don't have that. So you're going to be in a tough spot when you're making changes.
Moose Johnson with us. You're with the UFL, the United Football League, the Spring Football League. I have I don't want to say like a hot take on this, but I have a thought, which is, one of the analytics, the Sumer Sports, which Thomas Dimitrov heads, the analytics firm or whatever, they came over and said the Rams, what they like to do is they like to take guys that transfer up in college, that go from kind of a small school to a middle school to a massive school, like a Jared Verse, a Braden Fisk kind of guys. We need a minor leagues of the NFL. And I'm not saying the UFL is a minor leagues of the NFL, because it's not. But we need it.
Yeah.
And I understand the financial investment that it would take for the NFL to do something like that. I don't know exactly how logistically it would be. But when Malik Willis was on the Titans, he needed to be playing minor league football.
Yeah.
With Will Levis, I think there's an argument that could be said that Will Levis needed to be playing minor league football. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big problem this league has. I think it's a big problem the quarterbacks have. Is there a way that the UFL, with the backing that it has with Fox, could get the NFL involved in order to truly have a legitimate minor league where we develop these young players, especially at quarterback?
We have people with really good relationships back into the NFL. Russ Brandon, our president and CEO in the NFL for a number of years, very good relationship with Roger Goodell, Troy Vincent. The people at Fox, myself having, played in the NFL for over 10 years and have broadcasted in the NFL for over 25 years. We all have really good relationships going back in there. A lot of the people in our personnel department worked at Park Avenue, were general managers in the NFL, general manager in the CFL. So we've got all those relationships. And now the question is, how do we create this vision that you're presenting? For me, it was going back to NFL Europe and, hey, we're going to send 10 guys over to NFL Europe to help you get this league started that you've invested in. And we're going to give you 10 spots to take the training camp as a thank you for sending the guys over to the league. So that was just numbers. It wasn't specific people. What we would like to do is something similar to what you're saying. And I think in the offensive line and the quarterback position, you're going to benefit a ton. We would love to be able to have a relationship where the player is asked, would you like to go down and play in the UFL this year? Yeah, I need snaps. I need to play at game speed. Okay, we're going to release you from your contract. You're going to go down and join one of the UFL teams, play the season out, and then we retain your rights, or the contract is reciprocal. It doesn't open you to be able to become a free agent to the other 31 teams. That's the hesitancy, from the NFL. I had a conversation with Jeff Stoutman about Jordan Mailata back in 2019. And that's what Jordan Mailata at that time needed to do. He needed to play football. He didn't really play the game, because these guys, if you're not a part of the preparation for the upcoming game, then you are not learning anything about your position. The first thing that gets cut with the amount of time, the restrictions what we have is the individual period. That's where these guys get better. The preseason's been short, and you're not getting enough quality snaps in a preseason game. Those are when these guys used to get some time. So the ability for them to come down to the UFL and play at game speed. Now, we're not NFL game speed, but we're a lot better than practice, and we're a lot better than preseason NFL football. So, I think that is something that I have thought about, that I have hoped for. I hear it from coaches around the NFL when I travel doing the games in the fall is, hey, you guys keep doing what you're doing because we need you. I mean, we hear it from everybody. We need you. To the point that you're making, these guys don't have the time to develop their craft because there's just not enough time and there's not enough opportunity. The NCAA, which used to kind of be the feeder system and didn't have a time restriction, and some of the old school coaches were grinders. I get it. We're student athletes, not athlete students, so we needed to pare down a little bit there. Well, now the NIL is in here, and it's the absolute Wild West. And you got guys moving all over the place, playing for 3, 4, 5 schools during the course of their college career. What are you learning? Where are you getting better? So when you're coming up to the NFL, you're not ready for this level of football. The quarterbacks, how good are you at the skill set that you need at the NFL level compared to the NCAA level? So I think the UFL provides a great opportunity, not only for the guys that have been there, done that, or on the street, and we can bring them into our league, but finding a way to get that relationship developed and built where we can help them with the key positions on the field. Because if offensive line and quarterback are that important to the success of an NFL team, those seem to be the two positions that are being impacted the most.
What's the NFL's concern about this? Because I know, to your point, like, they would love to have a developmental system for these players, but there has to be some sort of financial element that keeps them from wanting to really commit to something like that.
It could be finances. It could be the contract. It could be coercion to get players to go down. It would have to be their own free will. You can't force anybody to go down and play with us. But if you offer them the option, I think as a young player trying to get better at what he does, for them to come and play 10 games with us in the UFL, as opposed to staying through a traditional NFL offseason with shorts and helmets and limited time, at the facility, and a training camp that's been shortened and scaled down. Your best opportunity is probably the joint practice model that's becoming popular. We continue to hear that preseason games, might become a thing of the past. So this landscape of preseason is changing dramatically in the NFL. So, I really think that the value that you're going to get going through a UFL season where you're playing at least 10 games, and if you're into the playoffs, 11 or 12, and you're seeing it at game speed, and you're making reads and you're making progressions, and we got great coaches. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We had an opening this year, and Ken Wisenhunt called and wanted to interview
Nashville.
him.
Be careful about that.
Well, I'm sorry, but I have a lot of respect. The guy's 5 seconds away from winning a Super Bowl. So, I like Ken, and he's the guy that we called 2 years ago, and he wasn't ready to come yet. So he decides, and he sees what we're doing and wants to be there. We've got 2 offensive line coaches that are NFL veterans coming to our league this year, and Tom Cable and Mark Colombo. So in the key spots where these guys need to develop, we've got great coaches. That's the biggest thing. When it's a Ken Wisenhunt and a Mike Nolan and a Wade Phillips and a Bob Stoops and a Curtis Johnson and a Reggie Barlow and an Anthony Beck, Skip Holtz, on a roll that he's on. I mean, these are good coaches that love the game. And the reason they're with us is because they do love the game, and they do enjoy being around these guys because they're wired differently. The guys in the NFL, you got to prod them along every once in a while and get them to work a little bit harder. These guys, you got to pull them back and say, I got to take you off the court. We got to get you a break on special teams because we're going to wear you out by the end of the season. And these guys will know this is how I'm going to get back to the NFL. I've got to have tape of me on all the 4 special teams.
Moose, great stuff as always. Thanks for stopping by.
You got it.
You are an NFL institution, a championship player, a championship level broadcaster, and now you're doing great things with the UFL, which, again, for years I've said. And I think Malik Willis is the perfect example of somebody who needed to be playing UFL football.
Yes.
And Moose, great stuff as always. Stillman and Company, we continue 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. We are presented by the Southern Mega Tennessee, and we are live at Radio Row at Super Bowl 59. That's right here in New Orleans. Our coverage presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, 312 Pizza, Cedar Direct, and the New Cumberland.com. So we had Moose Johnston booked for 3:00. He came by at 2:45, so we put him on at 2:45, and then we went along with him. And quite frankly, I thought it was a very insightful interview. But we did go pretty long with him, and we got Rich Gannon stopping by coming up next. So we will hit Rich on the other side, and we will be talking quarterbacks with Rich Gannon, Levis, the draft picks, the Darnolds, etc. That's next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. Live out at Radio Row, where our coverage is presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Family Leisure, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, and by Houston Clinic Orthopedics when experience matters. And we're joined by a former NFL MVP, two-time All-Pro, Rich Gannon, Sirius XM NFL Radio. And you can hear Rich hosting the Sirius XM Blitz on Sirius XM NFL Radio weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Although not every day. You're on what, like
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
There you go.
Semi-retired. I don't know if that's true, but it's great to be with you, Jared. How you been, bud?
Oh, I've been good. By the way, I was actually looking up your stats the other day.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, if you played baseball at that point in time, you know, the mid-2000s, when, you were in Minnesota and I believe Washington and Kansas City, and then all of a sudden you end up with the Raiders and John Gruden, and it's Pro Bowl, League MVP, All-Pro. You know, you and Steve McNair right there. You were like 35 years old at that point.
You know,
if you would play baseball, we would have thought you were on the juice.
I was. No, but in all seriousness, you know, sometimes everybody's journey is different. And for me, when I came out of Delaware in 1987, I wasn't ready to play, you know, and so I went to Minnesota and I played for a couple different coaches, a couple different coordinators, and didn't really get a chance to play a lot early. And then got a chance to play, and then I got traded, and then went to the Redskins and had rotator cuff surgery, was out of football a year, went back to Kansas City, had to kind of jumpstart my career and played on some really good teams, and then finally got the opportunity in 1999 to be a free agent, and Al Davis and John Gruden took a chance on me. And I think sometimes, I say this all the time, like, it's so important for a player to know that someone believes in you, someone trusts you, someone wants to give you the keys to the car, you know. And I think when you look at the quarterbacks during this game this weekend, like, clearly Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are on the same page. They see the game the same way, and Andy's got a lot of trust that Patrick's going to do the right thing in a critical situation. Jalen Hurts does it a little bit differently, but I think Nick Sirianni's put together a great offensive line, a great running game around him, and he's thrived in that system as well. So you got to believe in the people that you're with. That's a big part of it. And think about this, Jared. 37 NFL coaches have been fired in the last 5 years. 37. They're all getting fired for the same reason. Bill Belichick got fired last year. The quarterback room isn't right. Think about the Tennessee Titans. You know, it's hard to win.
Well, that's why I asked you about kind of the second half of your career and the resurgence you had, because Thomas Dimitrov was on our show yesterday and Ryan Leaf was on our show yesterday, and they both, and I think you can agree, two very different backgrounds, they both were talking about the idea of giving Will Levis another chance. I'm kind of out on Will Levis. I think they're out on Will Levis when they benched him, but again, you had a resurgence in your career. What do you see out of him in the situation there?
I have a lot of concerns. Like, I watched his game. I did a breakdown of him his first year. I did a lot of study on him coming out of college. I looked at him at Penn State. I looked at him at Kentucky. He was a big. I'd keep him out of the weight room for first of all. Let's start there. Like, you know, I'm not interested in see how much he can bench or how many reps he can do. That doesn't really impress me. You know, I think he's a guy that has to get a little bit longer and linear in terms of his muscular. You know, he's just such a thick dude. You know what I mean? And it's not at that position, it's your movement and your flexibility and your range of motion and your ability to throw the ball in different arm angles and things like that. He's got to work on his feet, and he's got to work on his accuracy. He's got to work on the decision-making and ball security. I mean, those are critical components of playing the position. His time clock, you know, he sits there and stares down the receiver and he can't get through the progression. And, you know, he throws a pretty deep ball, but he makes the easy throws look difficult, the short throws, and, you know, and I think when you look at their struggles last year, I mean, it was a hard offense to watch. I mean, it really was. I mean, I feel bad for Bill and Brian. I know both of them well. I mean, trying to get the offensive line going, trying to get a running game going, trying to make plays around them. Their defense played so well early in the season and gave them chances in every game. The special teams would have a snafu, and the offense would turn the ball over. I mean, it's hard to win that way. So, in terms of Will Levis, this is an important offseason for him. I'm sure the Tennessee Titans are going to be exploring all the possibilities this offseason.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rich Gannon, with us on the program. The two quarterbacks that are in the draft, Sanders and Ward, I mean, I'm not a quarterback guru.
I don't think it's a great year if you're looking for one, it's a bad year.
I keep hearing that. And the Titans have the number one pick, and there's a lot of thought, well, they'll just take Cam Ward. But I keep telling people, if you take Cam Ward number one and he's not a franchise quarterback, you don't get bonus points when you play Kansas City with, well, they were in a bad draft that year when they took him. So what do you make of that situation with the two guys? And again, a number one pick's a number one pick, even if it's a bad number one pick, like a bad year to be picking number one. If they take one of these guys number one, the expectations of them will be that they're going to be a franchise quarterback. So what do you think about that scenario the Titans are in?
Well, it's another scenario we need to consider before that, right? And that's free agency, because that happens before the draft. And I think when you look at free agency and you look at the quarterbacks that are available, I think you have to exhaust that avenue first, right? So you say to yourself, does Sam Darnold make sense? Does Daniel Jones make sense? Those are probably the top two quarterbacks right now. Daniel Jones is an intriguing player. He's played 6 years. He's a young quarterback. I think he's 26 years old, 27 years old. He played in a bad situation with the Giants 2 years ago, or he won a playoff game, or 3 years ago he won a playoff game on the road against Minnesota. So I think this guy's a capable player, but I think you have to look at that, and you have to look at the draft and do your due diligence and figure out what's the best fit for you. But you better get it right, because if you don't get this one right, somebody's going to get fired.
So I am all aboard the Sam Darnold train. So Mike Borgonzi,
I think Daniel Jones might be a better player than Sam Darnold. That's my personal opinion.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't
Based off of what?
I don't think I'm the only one in that position. I think everyone's so excited about Sam Darnold based on what we've seen this year. If you set aside this year and you just look at their body of work, I think most evaluators, talent evaluators, would say, I think I'll take my chances on Daniel Jones.
Sam Darnold was 4-2 though in 2022 with Carolina, when they kind of got back at the end of the year into the division race with the same team. Baker Mayfield was 1-5.
Let me tell you who Sam Darnold is. He had 39 turnovers in 26 games at USC. He brought that same behavior with him to the Jets. He was there 3 years, and they ran him out of the building. Why? Because he couldn't take care of the ball, and his ball security and his decision-making was horrible. And he goes to Carolina, and it's much the same thing. Like, he didn't figure it out. He goes to San Francisco for a year, which is the best thing that happened to him. Play behind Brock Purdy, and he got a chance to be with Brian. He had Brian Greasy, who's a great coach, great quarterback coach, and he got a chance to be with Kyle Shanahan. Then he goes to Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, and a great offensive line, and a good running game, and receivers and tight end, and he played a lot better. He had a great year. I'm happy for his resurgence. So hopefully he's on his arrows pointing in the right direction. But who's to say Daniel Jones can't do the same thing given the similar situation?
But I don't have that from Daniel Jones. Although I did have the
How
2
about
years
3 years ago?
How
How about 3 years ago where the offensive line was bad? All they had offensively were he and the running back. That's it. The wide receiver position was garbage. The tight end position was non-existent, and they went on the road and beat the Vikings in a playoff game. I mean, the guy. Look, if you even the owner said this. We haven't been fair in the evaluation of Daniel Jones. We haven't put a good enough team around him. So look, I'm not jumping on Daniel Jones saying that he's the next, John Elway. All I'm simply saying is the guy. I have some empathy for him because I've been in that situation. I felt like I was a quarterback that wasn't fairly evaluated. I thought I was a quarterback that had a lot of change around him. Think about him. He's got a lot of different play callers, a lot of different offensive lines, a lot of different, and that doesn't help the development of a young player. I'm telling you, don't keep. Watch. That kid's going to be a decent little player. I'm just telling you.
Rich Gannon on our program. So, how long have you known Brian Callahan for? You've known him for
I used to
25
throw
years.
when he was in high school. He would throw with us at training camp. I've known Brian a long time.
Okay. If Brian came up to you and said, Rich, the quarterback position. You're one of the best quarterbacks I've ever been around. You and Joe Burrow. Well, and Peyton Manning and Matthew Stafford. I've got Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, or I can draft a rookie, and I am risking my career with this decision. Rich, what do I do?
I think it's an easy decision for me because I don't have time. Like, just given the current climate of the NFL and how we fire coaches every year, we fired 10 coaches in their first year in the last 10 years.
Yeah, Brian almost didn't make it out of this year.
So so if I'm that guy, do I really want to draft a young quarterback that I'm not quite sure about, okay, and roll for 24 months and lose a lot of games and go through the turmoil and the struggles and the adversity and maybe lose my job? Or am I going to bring in somebody who's already been through that, who's already been through the fires, and who's a little bit more refined, a little bit more prepared, a little bit more ready? So to me, it's either Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones. Of the guys you gave me, that's my choices. Make a decision. It's one or the other. That's it.
So
I'm not going down. Mac Jones doesn't work for me. Justin Fields doesn't work for me. It ain't going to work for Brian Callahan or Bill either. It's between those two guys. There's your answer.
Rich Gannon with us. So this is when Mike Borgonzi got the job, he talked about solidifying the quarterback position and how when he was in Kansas City, that's what they did. And when he says solidify the quarterback position, I think the fans hear that and think Mahomes. He's not talking about Mahomes. He's talking about Alex Smith. Can Sam Darnold
Alex Smith.
be Alex Smith?
Alex Smith was a really good player. And Alex Smith, I call it the Alex Smith syndrome. He had 6 different coordinators in his first 7 years when he was with the 49ers, which is a train wreck. He finally comes to Kansas City with Andy Reid. He puts his arm around him. The guy has some great years. And he even goes to Washington before he gets hurt and plays some good ball. If you can find a quarterback like that, your prayers will be answered in Tennessee.
But it doesn't sound like you think Darnold can be that.
Oh, I do.
Because I
do. You just said to me, like, you downgraded Daniel Jones because you were all over the other guy. I'm just simply telling you, I don't know there's a lot that separates those two players. Sam Darnold's the hot ticket right now because of what he did this year. Daniel Jones was on a practice squad, the second half of the season. He was wearing shorts and a T-shirt on the sidelines. So we're not thinking about Daniel Jones. I'm just telling you, the kid can play.
Mm-hmm. See, the thing with me with Darnold, and this is my feeling.
Here's the thing about Darnold. Darnold's always had the athleticism. He's always had the feet. He's always had the arm talent. He's always had the playmaking ability. What he didn't have was the discipline to throw the ball away once in a while, not take the ugly sack, not throw it to the other team. He's gotten better in that area. And that's why he's become a solid player at the position.
How much did the last 2 games he played scare you?
I'm not going to overreact to that. I mean, I'm not going to not evaluate what he did the first 15 games of the season, whatever it was. I mean, I think you take any good quarterback and you get around him and knock him around and pressure him and hit him, and he becomes an average player. I don't think he played well. I don't think the offensive line played well. I don't think Kevin O'Connell had his best games against those 2 teams, Detroit and the Rams. And I think it's I think you got to evaluate his body work. He played every week. He played at a high level. He put his team in a position to have a chance to win. And there's a lot of good things there when you look at Sam Darnold.
Rich Gannon is with us. When you go back to your day and you talked about how you didn't feel like you were properly evaluated, and I remember when I used to work with Floyd Reese, and then they drafted Steve McNair, and he went right to the press and said he's sitting for 2 years. And I see some of these quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson, who probably needed to sit on the bench. And instead they're like, we're going to play him and we're going to run QB sweeps for him and we're going to get him injured and we're going to – is it possible? Because there is some talent there with a Cam Ward. But I don't know if he's ready to start in the NFL right now.
I don't think any of these guys are ready to start in the NFL right now.
Is it possible to do the Steve McNair thing in today's era where we say, hey, we are going to bring this guy along slowly and we don't give a rat's ass what the media thinks about it?
I think so. I mean, I think the Packers do it. I mean, there's other teams that try and do it. They did it with Jordan Love. They did it with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if you have a veteran quarterback that you can go out and play with, and what happens is you have a guy that's not really consistent and productive enough, and so what happens is that after 3 or 4 games, the team's struggling, the quarterback's not playing well, so it's like, let's get the rookie in there, even though he's not ready, even though we said we're going to be patient with his development. No, we throw him in there, and what happens is we throw him in there before he's ready to play. He has a bad experience, he loses confidence, the team loses confidence, the fans lose confidence, coaches lose confidence, and next we kick him to the curb. That's not the way you want to bring along a young quarterback. So we have a problem in our league right now. It's real simple. We don't do a good job identifying who those players are. Once we get them in the building, we don't do a good job developing them. And that's the big problem in the NFL. Like, if you don't have somebody on your staff, whether it's your pro personnel, your college personnel people, your scouts, your coaching staff that can evaluate who those players are at those positions, and then once you get them into the building, do you have a coaching staff? Do you have a good quarterback coach, a good coordinator that can develop them, or do you have some quality control guy or some assistant tight ends coach who's now the quarterback coach, and that's the guy that's coaching the position? It's unbelievable. This is the most important position in all of football. We're paying these guys $50 million a year, and we're not even doing a good job evaluating them. And you know what it's costing? It's costing people their careers. People are getting fired because they can't evaluate that position, they can't develop it, and they can't coach it.
Is there a chance that your Raiders are going to want to move up to number 1 to take one of these quarterbacks? Because
I don't think so.
Everybody tells me these quarterbacks aren't any good, and then everybody tells me the Titans should trade the number 1 pick. Well, if the Titans evaluate that these quarterbacks aren't any good and they don't want to use the number 1 pick, why would somebody else want to trade up to use
somebody will, because they do it every year. And I think when you look at the evaluation process, we talked about it. Some people are good at it, some people aren't good at it. But I think when you look at Jaden Daniels this year, I think you even look at Drake May and the situation he was in New England with a bad offensive line, the worst receiving core in football. You look at Bo Nix. You look at some of these young quarterbacks that came in last year and really played well. Caleb Williams, I think the best thing he did was play all 17 games, showed some real toughness and real resolve. So I think when you look at the draft, there's always somebody that's so needy that they're gonna go so far as to say, he's got some deficiencies, but we can still make it work. You know what I mean? And that's where you make big mistakes in the draft.
Do you think there will be a team that talks themselves into it? Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this. Rich Gannon with us. You worked at CBS with Greg Gumbel for forever. I mean, I never met Greg, but he called pretty much every big sporting event in my lifetime. I was bummed out when I heard the news about Greg. Your thoughts on the passing of a broadcasting?
I was so lucky to work with so many great people at CBS, like Dick Enberg, Don Criqui, Marv Albert, Kevin Harlan, Ian Eagle. I mean, Greg Gumbel. I mean, and Greg was just such a sweetheart. He was, he had an unbelievable personality, so warm, so welcoming. So, you could tell about the quality of a person, their core values in terms of character, integrity, and decency and honesty. It's the way he treated the people on the crew, like the BAs, the ADs, a runner. He was just always went out of his way to make everybody feel at home and comfortable, and just such a quality guy, and an absolute broadcast legend, a Hall of Famer that's going to be sorely missed by everyone at CBS.
Rich, thank you so much.
You're the
Again,
best,
you can
Eric.
hear Rich on Sirius XM NFL Radio. Rich Gannon, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, we are live out at Radio Row here on our program, and our Radio Row coverage is presented by the fine folks at Houston Clinic Orthopedics, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, 312 Pizza Company, Cedar Direct, and the new Cumberland.com. Let me tell all the fine folks, if you're looking to win tickets to a Preds game, be listening to Robbie and Rexro tomorrow morning for Preds Pick to Click. All you have to do is guess a Preds goal score, and if they put the puck in the back of the net, you win. So be listening to Robbie and Rexro tomorrow morning for the cue to call. By the way, the Predators are calling him Joakim Kimmel. That is something that does kind of pick up my antenna a little bit. This idea that, hey, maybe one of the guys who's supposed to be a difference maker, if he's a third-line Scarbini, will have problems. But he's actually supposed to be a difference maker. So that actually gets me a little excited. So Rich Gannon was just on the program, and I love how Rich sat down with us. And we were talking to Rich about, your career, Rich. You were in Minnesota and then Washington and Kansas City, and you really didn't find your footing. And then you get with John Gruden in Oakland, and now you're league MVP. And it's like, wow. And he talked about, I was underdeveloped coming out of Delaware when I went into college. I wasn't ready at this, at that, all these things. And then I said, what about Levis? He's like, nope. And I saw the comments that Will Levis made to Jim Wyatt at I almost said at the Tennessee, and holy smokes. They had been there for 10 years. At the Titans website. And he was talking about, look, I understand, to bring in competition. I still think I can be a quarterback, blah, blah, blah. And I got to say, do you know what bothered me about all that? I'm not saying Will Levis shouldn't be here in New Orleans, but Will Levis probably shouldn't be doing public stuff in New Orleans. If he wants to go meet with his agents and go to some parties and things, fine. I'm not worried about that. But again, I didn't even see Levis coming around and doing the rounds or anything like that. But if he sat down with Jim Wyatt, I'm like, why would you be coming around and giving quotes and doing media and talking about, I want to compete for the job and I want to, why are you in New Orleans for that? Dude, stay home. And that's one of my biggest problems with Will Levis is I think it's the lack of self-awareness. That's why I said it was a big deal to me when Shedeur Sanders, when Jim Wyatt was on with Robbie and Joe, and Robbie and Joe were asking about Shedeur at the Frisco East-West Bowl, and Jim Wyatt told the story that he asked if he could get some extra time with Shedeur Sanders because he was with the Titans and they wanted to get content on Shedeur, and Shedeur said, yeah, come find me, we'll do it. Shedeur did it. He was great. And I'm like, that is a green flag on Shedeur Sanders because it says that he is self-aware. Will Levis had one of the single most embarrassing seasons in the NFL. Not only was he terrible, not only did he completely bomb this year, he had an entire organization, an entire city of people saying, you will see, because the whole country was like, oh, Will Levis ain't that good. He's a freaking weirdo with his mayonnaise and they were like, no, you will see. Now, early in training camp, I was like, this is pretty bad, folks. I remember the Seahawk joint practices. I said, if you guys saw this and this were a game, you'd be saying Will Levis stinks. But I say all of that because he bombed this year. And when he released the mayonnaise cologne, I was like, I don't like it. Because he'll get made fun of if he doesn't have a good season. And I was, Jared, let him make some money. Let's be part of the joke. Let's do it. Yes. And now it's a joke. It's a joke around here when they start talking about the mayonnaise and the Hellman's commercials and all. It's a joke. So I think it's good news for Will Levis's career that he's going out to California to work with Jordan Butler. He needs to do that. He does not need to get caught up in doing media at the Super Bowl. Again, I'm not saying that's reserved for winners because it's not. There's a bunch. In fact, everybody doing media at the Super Bowl lost. But to not have the self-awareness that your season this year was a joke is a problem. Not that it matters because he's not the Titans quarterback anymore. Last year, I had to wait through that ping pong competition to spend 10 minutes to talk with him. This year, I mean, look, if they offered him on the show, we'd take him, but I don't think that like we're missing anything by not having him on the program. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
Mike, you made a comment during all that that's kind of getting parsed here, talking about
Who's parsing it, Gentry? Well, then ask the question, Jared.
The question, when you said that other organizations don't do things as well as the Patriots, and that you know because you've been there, were you referring to this organization?
They've won they won 6 Super Bowls in 20 years. That's what I was alluding to. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just extremely, you know, a lot of success. And, you know, and I guess just probably having talked to, you know, Bill and, you know, Mr. Kraft and the coaches I know they're on staff. I guess that was just my way of, bringing them good luck on Sunday. No, I mean, just the amount of success that they had there. That was the whole message was just for myself and the former players and everything, just to not take things for granted. Just the because I got traded myself and then went to a team that went 6-10, and it was like, where you're just trying to find ways to win other than knowing that you're going to win when you show up. It was my whole intent of saying that they've had it pretty good there for 20 years, 6 Super Bowls and however many else they went to.
There you go. The infamous New England comment press conference with Vrabel. So I'll be going on Boston radio at the top of the hour. What we're going to do is we are just going to run it. So I will be on 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston on the Felger and Maz program to discuss Mike Vrabel at the top of the hour, and we will be running that on our show. And I want to thank TD, by the way, because TD is going to come on at 4:30 for the Power Hour. He was accommodating to us for that. So here's the deal at the Super Bowl. Every single person here, like every single person, thinks the Titans are so stupid for firing Mike Vrabel 2 years ago. And I got to tell you, for all the dumb things the Titans have done over the last 3 years, that one doesn't really move the needle with me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because while I think Mike Vrabel is a great coach, that's what he should be. Coach. That's it. And the toothpaste was out of the tube with Vrabel when they had essentially kind of promoted him to put him and Rand on equal footing, that they were going to work together and they were going to do great and they were going to all these things. And I don't think there was any way at that point Amy could demote Vrabel to, hey, you're just the coach and this general manager is the GM. And so with Vrabel, I think that if he had gone to a place like Dallas, where Will McClay picks the players, and there's already a quarterback in place in Dak Prescott, and he could have kept the offensive staff with Brian Schottenheimer in place, and Vrabel's just the head coach, and Jerry, takes all the attention, makes it all about him, that would have been perfect for Vrabel. If Vrabel went to Jacksonville, where Trevor Lawrence, I think there would have been a shot. But Vrabel picking the players in New England, nobody ever talks. He's got no experience doing that. So, I would bet, and this is what I have said to everybody. Mad Dog was on the show, said it to him. Breer was on the show, said it to him. I would bet against Mike Vrabel being the coach of the Patriots in 4 years, because I don't think he's qualified to do what they're going to need him to do. Pick the players, develop the quarterback. Also, did you see Todd Downing back on the staff? Jason Hodeling back on the staff over there in New England. They did get Tony Deuce, who I think is a good coach. 615-737-1025 is our phone number here on the program, 615-737-1025. We'll break a little bit early just so I can get over to their set for the Felger and Maz radio program. But that is what will come up next, again, on the show. I'm going on in Boston, Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
Todd Downing from tight ends coach. Todd Downing was atrocious. He was the Jets OC this past year. After that, after 2 years of Downing, and Downing got a DUI after a Green Bay win on Thursday Night Football, they got rid of Downing, Tim Kelly, who was his buddy from the Texans, and get ready for a lot of people from Bill O'Brien's coaching staff in Houston to be on the Patriots coaching staff, because it's like the Bill buddy system. It's the Vrabel buddy system. But Tim Kelly was the offensive coordinator of Vrabel's last year here. And I think Tim Kelly's fine. But, you know, it's a Tannehill-Levis situation. The offensive line was a mess. Unless they get Dante Scarnecchia out of retirement, I don't know what they're going to do as far as the offensive line coach is concerned. But Vrabel does not have a clue when it comes to fixing offensive lines. That's going to be a problem. But if you were to ask me, you know, is Vrabel good at finding offensive coaching talent? The answer is no. Again, the good news about Vrabel, he's like Bill. The bad news about Vrabel, he's like Bill. And so my question to you with Bill is, right now, would you trust Bill to find offensive coaching talent? No. Same thing with Vrabel.
All right, welcome back to the program, everybody. It's Felger and Maz from the Super Bowl Radio Row, the New Orleans Convention Center. Our coverage this week is presented by DN Van Lines. Choosing Sunday's winner is a coin flip, but choosing your move day winner is a sure bet when you move with DN Van Lines. This hour of the program is brought to you by Catch's Law. That voice you heard there was Jared Stillman. He did this great interview with Matt McCarthy and I want to say Leroy Irvin?
Yeah,
I think that's right. Yeah. The couple days after Mike Vrabel was hired, Jared Stillman is an afternoon host at 1025 The Game in Nashville, so he covered Mike during those times. And I ran into Jared today on the street walking into the convention center and said, we got to get this guy on, so we have him on. Jared joining us now in the Raising Cane's guest chair. How you doing, Jared?
I love it. I see the flagship station for the New England Patriots. I'm like, yeah, they're not going to be very happy. Now, I know this show doesn't do that kind of stuff, but the traditional flagship, not going to be very happy to come talk about the coach that everybody loves here and bash him.
And listen, we need that balance. Side of it.
We believe in balance.
Yeah, it takes that free speech and balance, Jared. We want all opinions aired.
Well, here's what's been driving me crazy. Since I've been here, every guest I've had on, it's like whether it's Mad Dog or whether it's Rich Gannon or whomever, they're all like, I can't believe they fired Mike Vrabel. I mean, the fact that the Tennessee Titans would fire the great Mike Vrabel. I'm like, the great Mike Vrabel? Like, they lost 7 games in a row in 2022 to end the season. They were 7-3 and finished 7-10. The great Mike Vrabel? The great Mike Vrabel? Really? The great Mike Vrabel that inherited a playoff team when he got the job? And they didn't make the playoffs that first year? That guy?
So I know the answer to the question, but you think he's overrated.
I think Vrabel's a good coach.
But overrated.
Yes, because you people, and not you people, but you people, you're treating him like a god. Like, oh, yes, all of our prayers have been answered. We're bringing in Ryan Cowden. Vrabel's going to run this Elliott Wolf out of there. That is Bobby Greer 2.0. Vrabel is going to run his ass out there faster than Bill ran Bobby Greer out. And it's going to be Vrabel and Cowden. And Vrabel's going to pick the players. Cowden is a total yes man to Vrabel. And Vrabel has no experience doing this. He's never been a scout. He's never been a personnel director. He's never evaluated college talent. The 1 year that they gave him like semi-command of the roster, they took a guard with the 11th overall pick. Not only did they take a guard with the 11th overall pick, they took a guard who sucks. And not only does he suck, he had never played guard before they took him. He was the tackle out of Northwestern. They didn't have a left tackle. They take the tackle out of Northwestern. And all the draft gurus are like, well, you know, his arm length says he's really a guard.
Short arm.
So I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's play him at tackle. And if he can't play tackle, let's put him at guard. Nope. Vrabel's putting him at guard. But Vrabel, because he's like Bill, when they drafted him, Vrabel holds a press conference and says, we're going to play him at offensive line. Huh. We're going to play him at offensive line. Never played him a snap at tackle. And so congratulations on the Patriots. They'll use the 4th overall pick on a guard.
Well, he'll fit in because they've been doing this kind of crap. They did it just last year.
What I tell you, the good news about Vrabel, he's like Bill. The bad news, it's like Bill.
Jared Stillman again, 1025 The Game in Nashville. You said in that clip that Mike Vrabel had no clue how to, build an offensive line or coach an offensive line. He better hope Dante Scarnecchia comes out of retirement. Well, wouldn't you know? They hired Doug Marrone, who longtime offensive line coach, former head coach, like a pretty prominent guy for that spot, I would say, prominent name. And Dante Scarnecchia is rumored to be kind of back involved, not full time, but he's going to be in the building and consulting at least. So is it possible Mike knows what he doesn't know and is really beefed up at that spot because it's a weak spot for him?
So I actually, when I started to see that, we were keeping a very close eye on the Patriot coaching hires because Vrabel's assistant coaches were probably the downfall. Like, he hired some real freaking bozos. Like, the special teams coach was a joke. The two coordinators after Arthur Smith, it was a train wreck. And so we were watching, like, is Vrabel just going to bring the whole Titan crew with him? Like, I don't know if you know, like Calipari left Kentucky, brought the whole team and everybody to Arkansas, and they all stink. So, like, I'm like, is Vrabel going to do the same thing? Because Vrabel's very much like, my coaches, my way, my guys, I know. And so when I saw Josh McDaniels OC, I'm like, okay, that's a real coordinator. When I saw that he wasn't bringing Craig Aukerman as the special teams coach, and he was keeping the guy, I'm like, that's a real coach, maybe. Like, that might be good. And then I saw Jason Hodeling is the assistant offensive line coach. This freaking guy was the third assistant on a horrible offensive line coaching. The owner made Vrabel fire the offensive line coach. Vrabel goes out on this search 2 years ago in Phoenix at the Super Bowl. I was waiting on that stupid opening night. I cannot believe I wasted my time going to this to talk to Matt Nagy because there were rumors that the Titans might hire Matt Nagy to be OC. The next day, Vrabel promotes his buddy from the Texans to be OC, and he promotes the third offensive line assistant to be offensive line coach. The guy's never coached in the NFL before. He was the head coach at Colgate.
And this is this guy, the Hodeling?
Yes. Vrabel made him the line coach, and they drafted a guard with the first pick. And Vrabel the entire year was just getting hammered for this. And so I see Doug Marrone gets hired. And to your point, I'm like, hey, that's like a real name. That's a assistant offensive line coach. Jason Hodeling. Todd Downing, whom Vrabel fired because the owner made him after the 2022 season, and he got a DUI coming back from Thursday Night Football at Lambeau Field. Wide receivers coach of the Green Bay Packers. Here's what Vrabel has done. I am convinced of it. Vrabel.
Wide receivers coach of the Patriots.
Yes, of the Patriots.
Yep.
Excuse me. Vrabel probably went to Robert Kraft, and Robert Kraft was probably like, Mike, I really want Josh McDaniels to be the offensive coordinator. And Vrabel probably said, okay, and like smoked a Marlboro and was like, but I want my guys watching him. So Kraft's going to pay for real assistant. I actually wondered if maybe like the Titans wouldn't pay for real assistant coaches because they wouldn't pay A.J. Brown. So maybe that's, but I'm guessing that Vrabel's guys, you know, Downing and Hodeling, and although I do like Tony Du's the running backs coach, I think they're probably there just to keep an eye.
Well, I think it's a hodgepodge and arranged marriage and asking for trouble to have the owner hire the offensive coordinator, but the head coach hired the staff underneath them. That does not feel functional to me.
And the thing about Vrabel is this: if in order to get the job, if Vrabel were to want this job and he say, you know what, I got to work with Tony Maz and Murray, but like, fine, I'll do it. But I'm telling you right now, start renting because Vrabel's running you guys out of there. Like, it's not going to take long. It's Vrabel's way, and it's always going to be that way. That's like, I got asked, like, should Vrabel have been fired? Like, did I agree with fire? I would have fired Vrabel. Now, I would have cleaned house and gotten rid of the terrible general manager who they already just fired too. But my thing was the toothpaste was out of the tube. They had given Vrabel too much power, and Vrabel, you cannot take power back. So when I listened to the Vrabel press conference when he got hired, I mean, I was sitting there with bated breath. Like, I had a pad in front of me. I was like, all right, let's see what Mike Vrabel's going to say here. We have a language called Vrabelese on the program. Like, you guys probably aren't there yet, but a year and a half into this, you'll be like, remember when that fat guy in Nashville told us about Vrabelese? So there's things that he says because he can't help himself. He can't sometimes not be passive aggressive. Like, it's just in him, like, just to be that, even though he sometimes should just take the high road and just. And when he was asked about who has final say between him and Elliott Wolf, he said, we're going to have a shared vision. I laughed out loud. I said, yes, we're going to share my vision is exactly what that was in Vrabelese. And so, look, I mean, here's what I love about this. This is why I want John Robinson, who I actually think is probably better at the old general manager with Vrabel. Yeah. I think he's probably a better GM than Vrabel is a coach. But what I really, I want him to get a GM job, and I'm glad Vrabel has this job with a terrible team right now because I want to see the scoreboard. Like, somebody's going to be right about this. Somebody's going to be wrong. We have no idea now, but at some point, we will know who was right and who was wrong. And if Vrabel goes and wins a Super Bowl with the Patriots, I'll say I was wrong, and Vrabel can smack me on the tush if it makes him feel better. I don't know.
Jared Stillman, 102.5 The Game in Nashville. He's on the air 2 to 6, meaning now.
Yes.
So
How'd you pull this off?
So you know what he's doing?
Yeah.
We're running the stream live right now on 102.5 The Game.
Maz and Murray, we are live in Nashville right now as we speak.
Okay.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but we're going to just put that to the side.
Yeah.
We are now live in Nashville, speaking to the people of Nashville.
I thought you were going to say you recorded a segment.
Well, that's what I thought when we were texting earlier.
He's just taking the feed.
I mean, hey, I felt like it was a kill two birds with one stone kind of thing.
Oh, I love it.
Plus, at the same time,
this is why I'm mentioning it towards the end, so no one pulls the. Well, if they pull the plug, we've already got.
Well, you know
12
what? I'm
good
glad
minutes
he
out of it.
mentioned this because I'm going to go do Stephen A. show.
Jared, so knowing what you know of Vrabel,
sure,
and if he is in charge, how do you think the draft goes? Do you see a guy that sounds like a Vrabel kind of guy? And well, Tennessee's sitting at 1.
Sure,
you're not going to do the quarterback. So I mean, you should know the top 5. Like, break that, handicap that for me, knowing what you know about Vrabel.
Oh my God, this Will Campbell. He's a tackle at LSU. He's apparently a big old fatty, and they think he might have to kick into guard, and that's just perfect for Mike Vrabel because he loves the tackles that can't play tackle. I mean, that Peter Skoronski thing. I mean, I remember when they drafted him. And they had the softest left tackle in the league in Andre Dillard, who was a bust in Philly, and they brought him in here. Vrabel's one of those coaches. Maz, I bet you've seen this in baseball a lot. That was like a top prospect somewhere else. Guy cannot adjust in the major leagues, but there's some hitting coach or some manager that's like,
can fix him.
I can coach him. Let me tell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I watched him hit a ball 450 feet out there at spring training. Well, I'm telling you, I can coach him. Vrabel will look at one of these tackles, and because the Patriots offensive line is as bad as the Titans, and so they got to draft an offensive lineman. They'll take the Campbell kid out of LSU or the Banks kid out of Texas, and Vrabel will say, I can coach him, and maybe he can, but with the Titans, he couldn't.
Will Campbell.
Yo, great. I still think it's going to be the defensive lineman you said.
Yeah,
The kid from Michigan.
Like, I feel if Vrabel's really running the show, something, and you know his drafting history better than I do for sure. But I just feel like he would, in his mind, I'm not going to reach because Will Campbell shouldn't be a top 5 pick. And so if I'm going to reach for anything, it's going to be this defensive lineman out of Michigan, Big Ten defensive lineman. I'm going to build from the middle out, the defensive line out. They have Christian Barmore inside. So you pair, and I forgot the Mason Graham. You pair Mason Graham with Christian Barmore, and we're going to build from the inside out on defense. And I can just sort of picture him doing that sort of thing. But, who the hell knows?
Do you think the Patriots could trade, like,
yes, I think
this year's one and next year's one to get the 1 and take Carter?
Oh, no. No. I know. I thought you were going to say,
because they already have the quarterback. So it's not like they'd be giving up the quarterback in next year's class by trading next year's 1.
Is Abdul Carter worth that?
I mean, everybody that I've talked to here says all these players stink. That this draft class stinks, that these quarterbacks stink, that it's just awful.
Exactly. So I don't think I wouldn't be traded. I doubt they're not a trade up kind of team like
so
that.
They're a trade down team?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
everybody in Nashville's like, trade the pick, trade the pick, trade the pick. I'm like, the other teams have to have a guy that they want to trade the pick. If Joe Burrow was there, teams would offer you 8 number 1s and you wouldn't take it. But because it's Cam Ward, nobody wants it. And so everybody apparently wants to trade back.
Okay. What else? What else should we know about Vrabel before we let you go? Give me one more. I'm not even sure what to ask you, but
like, were people pissed when he was like? How do people feel about you and the way you talk about him?
I was going to say, how do you play in Nashville?
Okay, so it ebbs and flows when the team is good, and I find things to complain about. It's you're a hater. Or, that you just don't get access. That's why they treat you that way. You just are a miserable person. When they're bad, it's way to go, man. Way to hold them accountable. Way to tell them what's what. And with Vrabel, it was definitely like, because Vrabel and I like Vrabel. I mean, I'm not sure Vrabel likes me, but I like Vrabel. And
do you have any interactions with him? Would you show up and ask questions in a press conference?
Vrabel and I live in the same neighborhood. And so it was.
You see him at the coffee shop?
Oh, yeah. Literally at the coffee shop. There was a Seth Wickersham, like one of those big pieces about the Commanders a couple years ago. And I'm sitting down at this Jewish delicatessen I love so much called Nashville, my bagel and schmear. And I'm just reading this freaking bomb about Dan Snyder. And I'm not paying attention to like what's going on in the booth next to me. And so I'm just sitting there minding my own business. I look up, Vrabel's like getting up out of the thing. We look at each other, make that awkward eye contact, like, oh, hey. So like non-working hours here that we're kind of seeing each other. It's like, oh, hey, he's like, hey, yeah, you like this place? Like, yeah, I like this place. He's like, yeah, okay, good. It was like, hey, yeah, good to see you, whatever. I felt like Vrabel was thinking like, oh my God, he was listening to the conversation I was having in the booth. And all I could think was, dude, I was just like reading on the Washington Commanders. I didn't hear a word of what you said. If it was anything worried about that. But yeah, in the press conferences, we used to push each other pretty hard.
Yeah.
But like with Vrabel, here's the thing. If you just like yuck it up with him and laugh, he's going to hate you. And if you push back on him, he's going to hate you. And you asked if there was one thing that I should tell you guys about Vrabel. You covered the team when he was on it, right?
Oh, yeah. As a player.
I bet you
good-
he liked you.
I had a good rapport with him. Absolutely.
You will not have a good relationship with him as the coach. He will hate you. Like, he will hate you. He will hate
I
the
could have
show.
told you that.
He will listen. He will listen to this program every single day. He will go into his car. He will light up a Marlboro Light, and he will listen.
He's not joking about this, Mike.
So he rips
butts.
Oh, yeah.
Still smokes, huh?
Oh, yeah. He will roll up into whatever the nice little kind of
dunks.
Yeah, no. Like a little pubby kind of sports bar. He'll roll up into that, and people will be like, "Yeah, I hear what Thelga said about you on the show," and he's gonna just sit there and be like, I hate that guy," and he will truly mean it. He will hate this show.
I'm looking forward to it.
Because the stuff I've noticed, the stuff that gets discussed on this program ends up like out there. And that's the stuff he hates the most. So congratulations, guys. You guys will enjoy this.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Jared, that was tremendous. We also want to say hello and thank you to the people in Nashville. Have a good drive home. I'm not sure what the traffic's like on, but either way, thanks to
drive carefully,
Nashville. And Jared, thanks for coming in.
See
We
you at the
appreciate it.
Opry Land.
All right. Take it easy.
Thanks, Jared.
You want to give us a call here in Boston, or in Nashville, 617
Stillman and Company live out of Radio Row here on our program. That's just us this time. Ian, what'd you think?
I thought it was fine. Yeah, it was good.
I feel like I got in all the greatest hits on Vrabel over the last couple of years.
Probably so. Trying to think. Yeah, I'd say you probably got most of them. Special teams, coaches, coordinators, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
The guard.
Yeah, the drafting of the guard.
The guard.
You even brought up Dillard. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'd ever told that Nashville story on the air, though, that I ran into Vrabel. Because Vrabel and I live by each other. And, yeah, like Vrabel had this look on his face, like he must have said something or whatever, because he looked at me like, you know, oh, man, like this guy, I don't know what he's like. It was very uncomfortable for both of us. I'm like, hey, man, I was too busy reading this ESPN article. I didn't. One texter says, Vrabel has to be, our phone lines, by the way, driven by WillsAccounting100.com. Vrabel has to be pissed that you're still haunting him. I'm sure he thought he was rid of you. You know, I do wonder the first time I went on in Boston, if somebody said something to him like, hey, some a-hole from the radio in Nashville just was on the radio in Boston. And if they did, don't you think Vrabel had to know who that was?
Unless he thought it was Kuharski.
See, that could be the only other possibility.
Like if he said, you know, some jerk from Nashville, he probably, I don't know, Kuharski or maybe yourself, or I guess that's probably about it.
One texter said, by the way, at 404 said these are some long ass commercials. Yeah, that's because we were waiting for them. Like they took forever. I was just standing there. I'm like, let's go. But they didn't know that we were also running their stream. So make of that what you will. All right, real football talk. TD joins us next for the TD Power Hour. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. And Company live out at Radio Row. By the way, our partners for us being out here at Radio Row, who we are so happy and thankful for, are Houston Clinic Orthopedics, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, 312 Pizza Company, Cedar Direct, and the new Cumberland.com. TD, you do not get a Meet the Mets greeting because you re-signed Pete Alonso. That is not worthy of celebrating the New York Mets today.
The polar bear doesn't deserve a celebration? Come on, man.
Now, I'm not going to say you people as in like you were part of the people, but the Mets people, I felt like they kind of hated Pete Alonso there for a second until he hit that home run against Milwaukee.
No, I was always, I get what you're saying. You did exclude me, so credit to you for that. But I've always been of the, Pete's my guy. I use his meme all the time on Twitter and text messages. And yeah, man, I'm happy about it. I'm not going to lie.
TD, everybody here at the Super Bowl thinks the quarterbacks stink. You are the only person I know that truly has these quarterbacks are good, just from what I hear of you, not these quarterbacks are good for this draft class, but you think these quarterbacks are good.
Yeah.
Everybody else, people that I know I respect, people I think you respect are like, yeah, it's not that good. So what do you hear is kind of the difference between that and what you see?
Well, a lot of the things that people, first off, when someone tells you that Shador isn't good, what do they tell you?
They say that he's accurate, but his arm strength isn't good enough.
Okay.
He's not mobile. The Sumer Sports Analytics say he takes too many sacks and holds on to the ball too long. And again, I think it's kind of like the lack of elite traits outside of the accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the arm strength is an interesting one because you could throw in anticipation and make up for that. And that was one of the things that, if you remember the story I did was last Saturday it came out about Brian Callahan, right? He said, a lot of people have questions about Joe Burrow's arm. And that's not to compare the two. He was just using a situation as an example of how you don't have to have the utmost arm strength. There's a baseline standard, of course, but the sacks, that's something that, again, going back to that story, talking to Mike Borgonzi, and one of the things in watching Mahomes, and please understand, I'm not comparing Shador Sanders to Patrick Mahomes.
You better be careful, TD, because your story got picked up by all the aggregators.
I know.
Brian Callahan compares him to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I know. But in this case, I'm not comparing the two, but I'm just using situations. And one of the things Mike Borgonzi said was really good about having Andy Reid, when they watched film and they saw something, I could fix that. And honestly, getting rid of the ball or not taking sacks is something that can be fixed. So I don't think that's a huge issue. Is Shador Sanders the perfect prospect? Absolutely not. He's not the perfect prospect. But it's just funny to me how all these years it's always been, hey, you know what? Quarterbacks need to win from the pocket. They have to be pocket passers and surgeons from the pocket. Well, you got one in Shador Sanders, and now all of a sudden it's, I need him to be more athletic. He has to be a better athlete. It's just how much are the goalposts going to shift? It's like one of those Papa Shot machines. But then when we talk about Cam Ward, I'll say this. There are those moments where he does things, and you're just like, come on, man. You absolutely cannot do that. Throw across your body to the other side of the field, those types of throws and things like that. But then there's other times where it's like, okay, wow, I see. I got to let you go ahead and freelance at times because you will make a big play, a la the Virginia Tech game. So it's all in the eyes of the beholder. These guys aren't perfect by any means, but I'll put them up against Bo Nix. I think they're as good as Bo Nix at the very least. Obviously not better than Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, but I will put them right on the same stage as Bo Nix.
TD, a lot of the people that I talked to this week, and I've talked to so many of them that I can't remember who exactly said this, but had the sentiment that they think that Ward and Sanders would benefit by sitting on the bench in the NFL. Now, as well as I do, you take a quarterback number one, and unless you've got Aaron Rodgers ahead of him in Green Bay, the fans are going to be saying, hey, play the quarterback, play the quarterback, play the quarterback. I did watch Cam Ward's tape. Mm-hmm. I do think there's something there. I do think he's a first-round quarterback, even in a traditional draft. A number one pick quarterback, traditionally probably not, but a first-rounder, I think so. I do think sitting on the bench would help Ward. I haven't watched enough Sanders to have that interpretation of it. Do you think that could be an option for the Titans to sign a Jacoby Brissett type quarterback and still take the quarterback and then say, hey, we've got a plan for him, but we're not going to rush him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that could be a chance. But the thing is, and this is, again, going back to conversation, this is why I really liked having just that one-on-one with Callahan, especially with Borgonzi. Because kind of already know Callahan, but getting to know Mike Borgonzi. And one of the things, like, he looked me in the face, and you know, I love Alex Smith. Like, that's my guy. I've always loved, back to, 49er days, I've always loved him. But he looked me in the face, and he was like, man, it's good to have a bridge quarterback, and that's something that could help, but you have to have a special guy. And then he talked about Alex Smith, how he understood the assignment. He understood that, hey, you know what? Patrick Mahomes was drafted. He's going to be up out of there at some point in the very, very near future. But Alex Smith understood the assignment and said, hey, I'm going to help this young fella come along and be the eventual face of the franchise. And we know what's happened since Patrick Mahomes has gotten the starting job, right? They haven't, at the very least, not gone to the AFC Championship game. So I'm not saying that that's what's going to be repeated here. I say all that to say the bridge quarterback concept is good, but it has to be the right situation, the right guy for the job in order to make it work. And personally, I don't know that Aaron Rodgers is the right guy, but he is a name that I continue to hear being thrown in the mix. I don't know that your guy, Sam Darnold, is the right guy, but he's another name that I continue to see thrown in the mix. So we'll see what happens. But if they were to do a bridge quarterback and still draft a quarterback high, I wouldn't be surprised.
Did you hear Rich Gannon on earlier today talking about Daniel Jones? I mean, I remember, again, I didn't watch a ton of Giant football, TD, but I do remember when they came in here the first game of the year in 2022. And Daniel Jones, he didn't play great, or he didn't, slice and dice him. It wasn't like when I walk out of the stadium after watching Joe Burrow beat the Titans and I'm like, good Lord.
Right.
But I remember walking out of the stadium that day saying, man, Daniel Jones, like, he's tough. He's, he makes some plays with his feet. He makes some plays with his arm. And, I could tell Rich, really feels like Daniel Jones has been pushed, down a spot where maybe a spot too far for Rich's liking.
Well,
could that be a bridge quarterback for one of these guys, especially Ward? Because I think their games may be a little similar.
I had wondered about Daniel Jones, as we were going through looking at the different veterans. But honestly, I think if Darnold leaves, I think the Vikings keep him as kind of like an insurance thing. Now, here's the thing, right? When you look at Daniel Jones, and it's funny you mentioned that game because you know how they came back in the game. Saquon ripped off a 65-yarder to set up that touchdown. And then you know what happened. Sterling Shepard, was running.
Christian Fulton took a smoking break.
Well, I mean, it was an understandable smoking break because normally a quarterback's not throwing from opposite hash to outside the numbers, 40, 50 yards down the field. But that's what Daniel Jones did. And that's the type of thing that makes you like, you know what? We could do something with him. And I think that's what the Giants, had gotten caught up in for quite some time. But that's not an avenue that I would take, especially if I'm Brian Callahan. And that's the thing. All of this depends on the confidence and patience they're going to have with Brian Callahan. Because if you bring in a veteran, right, and it's a guy like Daniel Jones, and he kind of shows what he's shown before and it doesn't work, then Callahan's going to be out of here. And it's like, are you going to do that to him?
When I watched Ward's tape, TD, I saw, like, I could not put my finger on a quarterback that he reminded me of. There were certain things he did, but like, I saw a little bit of Kyler in his game, but he's not as athletic as Kyler, but he's bigger than Kyler. And I saw a little bit of Deshaun Watson in his game, but, he's more of a fluid athlete and, throws more fluid with his athleticism, whereas Deshaun's probably a better passer from the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I love when it comes to Ward, the off-platform throws, because you just cannot coach that. And
just finding a way to make a play.
The one thing I want your opinion on kind of in this Ward vacuum, even though his issues may be, hey, he's a little careless with the football, plays a little hero ball sometimes, his game is nothing like Will Levis's. Because I keep hearing Titans fans say, well, we already got a guy that doesn't take care of the ball and plays hero ball. I feel like Levis is way too tight, way too, like, almost robotic, whereas the decision making of Ward is so calm and cool and fluid, and it's just different. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the similarities between Levis and Ward are those plays that I mentioned, the ones where you're like, come on, man, what are you thinking? You know what I mean? Like he has those every once in a while. But the good thing is with Cam Ward, you get more of some, okay, what were you thinking? Good Lord, I get why you did that. You know what I mean? You get more of those with Cam Ward. If anything, now I'm going to dial it back a little bit, turn back the clock. Cam Ward actually reminds me of Achilles Smith. If you remember him, the Bengals drafted him. Now, it didn't work out for whatever reason, but Achilles Smith was a very, very good college quarterback at Oregon who, when it was time to run and make plays, he could do that. But he had that arm, and that arm, he was able to throw it, down the field and with accuracy and all of that. And he made plays off script the way Cam Ward does. That's who Cam really reminds me of. And it's just going to be one of those things of, can you get that to fit into your system, right? Can he play within structure as well as do what he does as far as a playmaking thing? And I think that's where, having a guy like Borgonzi who saw how they put things in place to emphasize what Patrick Mahomes, and again, I'm not comparing these guys to Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying he's seen what has worked. And so he could take that to this case and put things in place to emphasize what Cam Ward does best, and that'll be the most conducive to his success.
TD is with us, 615-737-1025. We'll hit your phones in the fourth and final segment with TD. Coming up next on our program, I don't think there is any chance that Matthew Stafford becomes the Titans quarterback. But there's starting to become a lot of smoke around Matthew Stafford. We'll get TD's thoughts on it next, live out of Radio Row here at Super Bowl 59. This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic chicken joint. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last. TheGameNashville.com/deals. Gift card only good for the Tanger outlets in Antioch and inside Assembly Food Hall in downtown Nashville.
Wasn't planning on discussing this, but hell, why not? My husband wants to win. He's not trying to put a team in a bad situation. If you're catching my drift, you're catching my drift. I will say that the trading away of Cooper, I guess I'm confused because we were one play away from going to the NFC Championship. And I think if we go, we win. I have to be the dog in this situation, being like, I want the respect for him that he deserves. Yes, I love the city of LA. I love the city of LA. With that being said, I love an adventure.
That was Kelly Stafford on her podcast, TD. Are we going to have to start listening to the Kelly Stafford podcast around here?
I think you just might.
I mean, look, I don't want to be the radio guy who poo-poos, the Matthew Stafford thing, because I don't think it's going to happen, because I remember how mad I got when everybody poo-pooed that Aaron Rodgers building a house in Nashville thing. And so I don't want to say it's TD. I don't understand this. Who's going to be the Rams quarterback if they don't have Stafford?
Yeah, that's the whole funny thing about this is, okay, yeah, everybody's saying get rid. Like, they were a playoff team, and I tell you, Stafford balled out against the Eagles. Stafford still has a lot of magic. Now, from a Titans perspective, if that is something they could do, that would be the best thing for them to do at quarterback. But we know that that's not very likely.
So when it comes to the Stafford thing, number one, I cannot imagine Matthew Stafford wanting to come to the Titans. On top of, I think there may be some real friction between him and the Rams. I think it's all about money, though.
Right.
They
Absolutely.
redid his contract last year, but he's still not getting the $50 million that some of these other guys are getting. And TD, quite frankly, I think he's worth it. And I think this is all going to be like a tense negotiation that ends up with Stafford still on the Rams. But I guess we have to talk about, I guess it is a possibility, right?
I mean, it's something you have to consider. And it's funny because Nick Suss from the Tennessean and who was Terry McCormick, and we were talking about quarterback options, and that was one of the things that we came up with. Like, wow, Matthew Stafford would be ideal. You just never know the way this league works, man. Stuff becomes available to them, and who knows? Maybe Sean McVay has a young quarterback in mind that he falls in love with, and they end up drafting him, and they kind of reset the clock, so to speak.
Any chance we could be lucky enough that young quarterback could be Will Levis? yeah. If we're going to shoot for the freaking moon here with Matthew Stafford to the Titans, we might as well ask if they'll take Will Levis back in exchange.
Yeah.
I do wonder this. Does Stafford's age play any sort of a factor? Again, if the Titans had the chance at Matthew Stafford, I'd say go take it.
Right.
But is there anything for you that's he is 37, so even if Stafford was on this team, they're still probably not a playoff team because they are not very good. Does that give you any hesitation on the Stafford front?
No, it doesn't, because I think Stafford still has at least 2, maybe 3 more years of play. I mean, his arm is going to be his arm, and he's not one of those guys that thrives off of athleticism or anything like that. So I believe that he will be fine in this situation, and that'll be pretty exciting, right? Going out and having a winning season next year, right? And when I say winning season, I'm not talking about 11 wins. I'm talking about 8, 9 wins, 9 wins. You know what I mean? That's a really good. That's an awesome season for this 3-3-win team from this year. So you have that, and you stack that up, and then you roll that into the opening the stadium. There's a lot of momentum there.
Any chance you think you'd actually want to come here?
I think there's a chance. The Brian Callahan connection. I think that could be something, and just, I mean, if the Titans can muscle up a contract, I think there's a chance. It's not likely, though.
What would you be willing to trade the Rams? Because he is technically under contract, so you'd have to
Yeah.
work out a deal with the Rams, and then you'd have to be like, I wouldn't trade the first pick for Matthew Stafford, even though Matthew Stafford is absolute. If Matthew Stafford was 27, not 37, I would trade the first pick yesterday to get Matthew Stafford, but he is 37 years old.
Yeah.
So where would kind of be your line of demarcation on the compensation to the Rams if Stafford wanted to come here, if it was actually on the Christmas tree?
Well, that's also a very interesting thing, because the currency, the top level currency that Mike Borgonzi referred to in his press conference, and the concept of drafting 30 players in the next 3 years, right? With 12 of them being top 100 picks, that's kind of pushed aside if you trade for a Matthew Stafford. So I don't know what they would give at this point. I mean, you would think a third. You look at a 4th round pick for the Titans this year is in essence a 3rd round pick, right? Because it's right there at the top of the 4th. So maybe that, but again, is that something you want to do, right? Do you want one of your first major moves to be going against the core values, the high level currency that you preached about in the opening press conference?
Here's what I don't like about the Stafford friction with the Rams. Clearly, it's real. If the wife is going on the podcast and airing it out, clearly it's real. So there is something there. If Stafford were to hit the market or were to be available, there's probably about 6 teams that would be ahead of the Titans for his services, I would expect, or something like that. Well, I go back to who's going to be the Rams quarterback. Remember, there was a rumor that came out when they played Minnesota before that Thursday nighter, and it was, hey, the Rams would consider trading Stafford for Darnold straight up, though nobody actually believed that that was true.
Yeah.
But I do think that Darnold does fit that McVay system since he did it so well with O'Connell this year in Minnesota. So I'm not really worried about the Titans and Stafford being a match as much as I'm worried that if Stafford goes somewhere else, then the Rams take Sam Darnold from you.
And that's the thing. Okay, the Rams take Sam Darnold, Stafford. I mean, look, if I had to pick between the two, I would probably rather have Stafford, frankly, because Darnold had a good year last year, but I still have questions about him. And you see the difference between Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford.
Absolutely.
Right?
My point is that if Stafford goes somewhere else, so like let's say Stafford says, I'm out of here, I don't want to be here anymore. The Rams say, all right, we'll trade you. Pittsburgh says,
oh,
we'll do
okay,
it.
okay. Well, yeah,
And so now
that's a double
Stafford's in
whammy.
Pittsburgh, and then Darnold goes to the Rams. Now what do you do?
Yeah, no, that's a double whammy. I think then now you're stuck back in that shopping cart that aisle that could include Aaron Rodgers. It could include Derek Carr, although I don't think the Derek Carr thing is likely. It could include Daniel Jones, which I don't think is likely. It could include Justin Fields, which I don't have a clue on. It would include that. Stafford is clearly like if you had to pick one, okay, that's the guy I would take. You know what I mean? Out of all of them, yeah, that's the one you would take.
I would take Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is freaking good. Like, he is good. And, I mean, I don't know if everybody else, TD, watched a quarterback play the Titans this year, but it was certainly not Matthew Stafford. 615-737-1025. We'll hit your phones at the 4th and final segment with TD today, who was kind enough to move times for us here at Radio Row with the Super Bowl. Coming up next, there's been one sentiment that has kind of followed the Titans this year and particularly at the Super Bowl. I want TD's opinion on. We'll do it next. We got some basketball to talk about. Tune into 93.3 Totally Hits Nashville tonight for MTSU men's basketball. The Blue Raiders will take on Jack State. Tip off at 6 o'clock, pregame at 5:30. And tune into 94.9 The Fan tonight for Vandy women's basketball as the Commodores will take on Texas with an 8 o'clock tip. Pregame with Jake at 7:45. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Vandy women's basketball presented by Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball coming to Nashville's Municipal Auditorium February 5th through March 2nd. Go to auprobasketball.com for more details and to purchase tickets. And we'll be giving away tickets later today on the program. So be listening for that. Stillman & Company, 105 again. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios and presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. We are live on Radio Row at Super Bowl 59 here in New Orleans ahead of the big game. And Stillman and Company broadcasting live on Radio Row is presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, 312 Pizza, Cedar Direct, and the New Cumberland.com. The TD Power Hour, Teron Davenport is with us. TD, we got to discuss a sentiment that has been going around Radio Row like a contagious flu anytime that I talk to somebody about the Titans. And it wasn't this way last year, and it wasn't this way 2 years ago. But the talk about the Titans really surrounds Amy Adams-Strunk this year.
Okay.
And I'm a little surprised by it because last year it was kind of a, wow, I can't believe they fired Vrabel kind of vibe, but it wasn't like, how dare they, although Mad Dog did kind of feel that way. But most of it was like, wow, I'm surprised they fired Vrabel. The year before that, there was no talk about the owner, even though she fired the general manager when the team was 7-5 and in first place. And again, we all remember that. But this year, it has been that owner. And it doesn't matter. We had Albert Breer on the show, and he was talking about Amy and how the vibe around the league is that, the ownership can't make up their mind. Mad Dog was on the show talking about, that owner, this and that. And it's just, even off the air, that's all the talk. It's like the great Mike Vrabel has been hired in New England because the owner in Tennessee was so dumb to let him go. So I do wonder this, TD, which is, what do you make of kind of the reputation that right now the Titans have? And how much of Rand's firing do you think plays into that with how this has all gone down? And how much does Vrabel's hiring play into all of it?
I think Rand's firing plays a big part of it. Because think about this, right? How many organizations can you say fired a GM, head coach, the GM's replacement in 3 consecutive years? Like, that's very, very strange. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. So, yeah, it very much should be viewed as an emotional, reactionary. And then on top of that, to not attend Mike Borgonzi's introductory press conference, like, that's just a PR disaster. All of it. And so I get why people around the league are speaking about this organization the way they are. I fully understand that. Now, as far as Mike Vrabel, what's the one thing that always helps? Like, you make a mistake, right? The further you could distance yourself away from something bad that you did, the easier it is to forget it, right? And so now here we are. Mike Vrabel got the job. Look, 2022, they lost 7 straight games. 2023, they were a disgusting football team. That was under Mike Vrabel. But because it's distance, and that was why it was wise for Mike Vrabel to kind of chill for a season and then wait for the next cycle, because he could further separate himself from the stuff that helped lead to him getting fired. And that's not to say Mike Vrabel is not a good coach, because, Jared, you know how I feel about Vrabel.
Sure.
I think he's immediately a top 5 coach in this league upon being hired, right? So it's just to say, at the time, I think that was just kind of like a necessary move, because they weren't going to go any further in that relationship.
I also, what do we make of, I talked to somebody here at the Super Bowl about Amy not attending Borgonzi's press conference. And they said to me that they felt like that was an acknowledgement that she was stepping away from running the football operation. And that she was putting it in the hands of Chad Brady.
Jared,
you don't seem to buy that one.
No, because she could have attended and not said anything. But the fact that chair was empty, that's a problem, if you ask me. You see what I'm saying? So the lack of presence there, it's not good. It's terrible optically. If I'm Mike Borgonzi, I see that, I'm like, well, damn. What did I walk into? You know what I mean? But I believe that this group that they have together, I believe they're going to turn things around. And honestly, I feel like Rand, he established a foundation, right? And I think they're going to build upon that. And I think this organization is going to be in good shape when they move into the new stadium.
You know what's crazy, TD? And I love you. I disagree with 100% of that. But apparently I'm the only guy in town that does not seem to care that Amy didn't go to the press conference. Everybody else, like, I'm starting to feel like I should change my feelings because everybody else is like, I'm not saying like shaming me, like, shame on you, Jared, for not caring that Amy didn't go to the press conference. But it's like, gosh, if everybody else thinks it's bad that she wasn't there, maybe I'm wrong and everybody else is right that I should be mad that for whatever reason, TD, I do not care that she did not go to that press conference.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're going to pick and choose what things stand out to you. And normally I'm someone that doesn't really, look into those things, but that was not good. I don't know the last time a major hire like that. I can't recall myself seeing a major hire like that and team ownership not be in the building.
I just remember when, like, I forget, I think it was Philip Fulmer got hired as the athletic director at Tennessee, and the Haslam family was against it. And so they didn't go to the press conference, and they were like, this is the first press conference the Haslam family hasn't been to in 100 years. And it was like, oh, wow, they're protesting. And why would Amy protest the hiring of somebody that
I don't
she
think
hired?
it was protesting at all. I don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that. I just think it was bad optically. It doesn't look good when you're not there to support. Like, it's not a public showing of support. Obviously, she supports it because she greenlighted it. You know what I mean? But I just don't think optically it was good. Does that make me say, oh, well, you know what? That means Mike Borgonzi set up to fail? No, I don't believe that.
Something popped into my head, TD. If you had to, I don't know if you heard my spot I did on Boston radio earlier today, but if Vrabel went somewhere where he was just the coach, like if Vrabel went to Dallas, where Will McClay picks the players along with Jerry, but I think you and I can agree Will McClay is very good at what he does in Dallas, and Jerry gets all the attention and does all the press conferences because that's what Jerry wants to do, but Vrabel could just coach the team. With Dak at quarterback, I think he'd be great. I think this idea of him going to a bad team with a bad roster in New England and Vrabel having final say is a disaster waiting to happen. And nobody talks about it like that. I think, again, if I'd rather have my organization with a second chance be run by John Robinson with a different coach or Mike Vrabel as the head of football, personally, I think I take Robinson over Vrabel running the entire operation. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, you're not crazy for thinking that. I mean, look, this is a team. We know Vrabel came in and they made a divisional round of the playoffs. So it wasn't like he took this and molded it into some type of winning organization that made their way to the AFC Championship game. That's not the case. He definitely had a lot to do with them getting there, right, in 2019. Sure. But I think the whole idea that he's just going to go in and New England's going to instantly be good, I don't think that's something you could immediately latch on to. You could make a case for it, but you could also make a case for them not being good right away because we haven't seen Mike Vrabel do this yet. But I will say we know Mike Vrabel is a very intelligent person. You know, he gives off the Biff, you know what I mean, type of dumb jock aura, but he's a very intelligent person. And what do very intelligent people do? They learn from their mistakes. I firmly believe that Mike Vrabel in New England is not going to be the same authoritarian and dictator that he was in Nashville. I think that he's going to cede to those who are in place and allow them to do their job. And if he doesn't agree with it, of course, he's going to make sure that they know. But I think it's going to be a more cooperative approach in that he's going to allow the people that are paid to do what they do to do it.
I did get a kick out of when the coaching staff came out. Todd Downing, wide receivers coach.
Yeah.
Jason Hodeling, assistant offensive line coach.
Yeah.
I did
Tony
get a kick out of that. Tony Dews is a good coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good. I was texting back and forth with him earlier this week, man, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Coach Terrell Williams, who I spoke to briefly.
I think he's a good coach too.
So those are good things. I think getting stretched. Ryan Cowden is funny down there at the Senior Bowl. I walked into a wing spot with one of my college teammates, and we walk in, and Vrabel's sitting there with Ryan Cowden and Stretch, and they got their notebooks open and the pencils all over the place. I cracked a big smile, gave them all dap and everything. But it was really good to see like that band back together, and that's what he's literally done, got the band back together.
Okay, hold on. So it was Vrabel, Ryan Cowden, and was Elliot Wolf there with him, or was it just those three?
No, it was just those three. That's not to say, hey, Elliot Wolf is alienated or anything like that. Here you go. Here you go.
Didi, come on now.
You look at his absence from the table at the wing spot, but you disregard Amy Adams' strong absence from Mike Borgonzi's press conference. Come on, man. We got to look at the right things here.
The difference is that I know Amy was invited to the press conference. I don't know if Elliot Wolf was invited to the wing spot. You see, let me ask you a question, TD. 2 years ago, would Rand have been invited to the wing spot? Or would it have been Vrabel, Ryan Cowden, and Stretch?
I think, Rand and Ryan Cowden, I don't know necessarily that they meshed. So I would say for that reason, no. But Rand and Vrabel, although they had their differences, they did not have the issue that everybody is making it out to be. I mean, obviously there were issues, but it wasn't like a, hey, I hate you, you hate me type of deal.
No, but maybe we went to the wing spot and didn't invite you kind of deal.
Maybe.
TD with us as always. We'll get to your questions for TD, your phone, 615-737-1025. And we'll do it next. Stillman and Company, live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 59, 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, TD with us for the TD Power Hour. Tehran, any thoughts before we go to the phones?
Nah, to the phones, man. Let's have
Phone
it.
line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. By the way, somebody texted in about Levis and spelled it Levass.
Yeah.
That's the
Yo.
first time I've seen that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that creative, boy.
That might have come up a while back. Cedric, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Cedric, you're on with TD. Thank you for calling and waiting. Go ahead.
What's up, Jared? TD, what's up, my man?
What's up, fam? Tomorrow,
Hey, man.
I'm gonna text you. We at the spot, 5 o'clock.
Word. Hey, listen, I need you to talk.
Frable will be there.
So,
Stretch will be there.
Yeah.
Calvin will be there. Hodling will be there.
Rand
and,
to be there. Nah.
Tim Kelly and Todd Downing will be there. But with Todd Downing, they
just
demoted him.
cut it out, man. Cut it out. Well, what's up, Sid?
okay, listen, man. Listen. So, you and I both know. Man, for some reason, man, he wants to recreate Ghostbusters 3 here in Nashville and sign Sam. I'm seeing Ghost out there, Darnold, with his 61% completion percentage, and bring him to Nashville, even though at the end of the year he had a 49% completion percentage in the last game of the year, and then absolutely stunk it up in the playoffs. So my question to you, TD, will we be smart as the Titans to sign his 61.2% completion percentage for his career to $40 million? Or would we be better served, and would the offense be better if we bring one Justin Fields here with his 61.1% completion percentage for about $12 to $15 million? Can you talk about that, please, TD? Can you please talk about that?
Yes, I will speak on that. And Cedric is 100% right. A leopard always shows its spots. And one of the things that makes QBs the guy or not the guy is if they get fresher under pressure. We know what Joe Burrow does. We know what Patrick Mahomes does. We know for the most part what I'll leave it at those guys. We know what they do. And here's the thing. Darnold, he got worse when it mattered the most.
Jaden Daniels, throw him in there.
Yeah, it's still early, but yeah, you're right. 100. You know what? 1,000% right. Jaden Daniels, he's a killer already. So we'll say those guys. But I think if you look at this, look, Justin Fields is not the first option that I would do, but he is someone that, look, at the very least, if stuff doesn't go right, it's 3rd and 13 and stuff doesn't go right. Guess what he could do? He could get gone and get you that first down, by running the ball if all else fails. I wouldn't seed him the quarterback of the future, but I could see having him be a guy that you work with for a couple years, definitely. And with that, I don't know that the problem is this roster isn't built to sign a quarterback and draft a quarterback at the same time because there's so many needs. That's the big problem why the bridge and future at the same time is it's not something I think will work. I would, though, be interested in signing Justin Fields, but it just, okay, if you do that, what are you going to do, when that hits its expiration or when that hits its ceiling?
So I want to address the Darnold Tannehill thing that Cedric said. I mean, I'm trying to get back to Tannehill right now. Like, that's what I'm trying to do.
Look, if you're trying to get back to Tannehill, don't sign Darnold. Darnold and Tannehill are two, because Tannehill got fresher under pressure. You saw it. He may not have thrown for 300 yards, but he'll give you a good $150 to 225 with 3 touchdowns.
That Bengal game, baby. And that Ravens game in 2021. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, but we could go back to what he did in that 2019 and most that 2020 season itself. He was a very good player.
He was nails.
Right.
So my point with the Darnold thing is I'm trying to get back to Tannehill for a couple of years, build up the team around, Tannehill 2.0. And then while my team is in the process of being built, if the right quarterback is there and if I can strike to put him in there and develop him the way I want to, then I do it. Not, I don't think I'm signing a true franchise quarterback by signing Sam Darnold. I want to make that.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. You think back to the Chiefs, they traded up to 10, right? They traded up to 10. They didn't have the 10th worst record in the league. They traded up to 10 to be able to get Patrick Mahomes, right? You look at the Eagles in going into that 2016 draft, like Doug Peterson came in, they made the deal, the one with Murray. They traded him here, and then they also made another trade with the Dolphins, and then they eventually traded up to be able to get to 2. Like they moved up 3 times to be able to get in that position. So a team can be good, to your point. A team could be good and still go get that guy if that situation presents itself. It's just a matter of, are you willing to pony up and put those picks together to go get that guy that you believe can be the one for you.
Buffalo did the same thing with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
They traded up twice. Mike in Gallatin is up next on our program. Mike, thank you for calling and thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Hey, guys, thanks. TD, when Myles Garrett came out and announced that he wanted to get traded, what's his contract status, and what kind of leverage do the Browns still have? Because my thought process is, as much as I would love to have him here on the Titans, I don't think we have a trade chip outside of the number 1 pick that would be enough to help him out. But can we use his desire to leave as a leverage to try to help maybe make them pay even more to swap picks with us at 2?
Yeah, so that right there that's a great point that you make. And Myles Garrett making the trade request, if I'm Abdul Carter and if I'm Drew Rosenhaus and the gang, I'm rubbing my hands together like Birdman. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh, boy, you just made us some more money, because his demand went up. So now it's very unlikely that Abdul Carter will drop below 2, because the Browns are like, yo, we got to get a pass rusher because we're about to lose a monster in Myles Garrett, right? And so here's the thing. If I'm the Browns, what I do is I trade Myles Garrett, but I need a first-round pick, and I want that first-round pick between anywhere from 15 to 20, right? You get the extra pick, and then you could actually go in and you could get a guy like Jackson Dart, if you want to get a quarterback later who you could work into eventually being a replacement. Now, granted, I'm not high on Jackson Dart, so don't, get it twisted. Me personally, I think a guy like Kyle McCord would fit better with what Stefanski and all those guys are doing, that style of offense. So you could do that too. So I think that the value has definitely gone up for Abdul Carter. I think if the Titans are able to entice the Browns to move up to 1 to get him, and then they stand at 2 and get extra picks, that would be great. But usually when a team moves up into the top 3, right, or even top 5, usually it's to get a premier, it's to get a quarterback, right? The Bears swapped with the 49ers, I think it was, and that's where they got Trubisky, and the 49ers drafted Solomon Thomas. Both of those picks, kind of fizzled out. But usually you don't see a team trade up into the first pick to get a defensive player.
I have a hot take for you, TD.
Hot.
I think Jackson Dart's going in round 1.
That's not a hot take. That's not a hot take, man. I take the Jackson Dart situation. I said this when talking with TD to Chris Sanders, right? It's like, you ever see Lion King?
I have.
Okay, so you remember when like they held Simba up and they were like, he's the next guy?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the draft community has been doing with a series of quarterbacks. They try to do it with Nussmeier. They try to do it with Drew Allar. They try to do it with Will Howard. They try to do it with now Jackson Dart. And Jackson Dart right now is the guy that they're holding up. He made that one throw in the bowl game, and all of a sudden, hey, this is a first-round talent. I'm not going to take anything away from him. I think he's a solid player. But when you start hearing people say, hey, he's better than Shador or Cam Ward, it's blasphemy to me.
The reason I think he's going in the first is because that guy from Sumer Sports, the analytics, said the analytics don't like Sanders, don't like Ward, but for some reason, even the analytic guy said the eye test doesn't say this, but the analytics say that Dart's good, and there's going to be a team, TD, that says, well, our analytics say he's good, so let's take him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like there's always one that's thrusted up. Last year, we saw who it was, J.J. McCarthy. There's always one.
One texter says, TD, thank you for saying that about Justin Fields. I've been telling Jared for the last 2 months, I think he's a good option for the Titans.
Yeah, and so there's different levels of good, right? I don't think Justin Fields is going to lead you deep in the playoffs. But in the aspect that you're talking about, where you have a legitimate quarterback, a guy that you could, build a team with, I think he could do that for you. But I just don't see him being the guy like, hey, you're going to lead us into that new stadium. I don't know about that, but I think he can still be productive. He's a talented player.
Here's my problem with Fields, just big picture. And it's not just Titans, it's everybody. If you go get Fields, I feel like you need to build the offense around Fields, like around his game. His game is very unique. I mean, I don't know how good he can be if you really dedicate a team to around his game, but I know that it would not be as bad as if you try to make Fields run an offense that isn't, specifically about his game. But in order to do that, you have to want to do what the Ravens have done for Lamar, which is, hey, this whole offense is about you. The Cowboys have kind of done something similar with Dak. This offense is all about you, baby.
But I think that could be said for any quarterback. Like, you got to play to their strengths. And I think that's what happens when you have a good coach and a good prospect come together and you get success. They emphasize what they do well.
But if Fields was like just drafted 11th overall by the Titans, I would say build the whole thing around him. But, again, if it's a 1-year deal, it's hard to like build your entire team around your quarterback.
Right. No, absolutely.
Just to move off of him after 7 games because you might draft Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. But again, like, I am not of the ilk of, hey, draft and bridge. Like, that's a tough thing to do, because if you do that, you better draft around that first round pick really well. You know what I mean?
Teron Davenport, he is the man. TD, thank you for moving times for us today. We really, really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it here on the program. Great stuff. Talking with TD as well is out. And TD was the one who helped us get Malcolm Butler on the show this week as well.
Oh,
TD,
yeah.
thank you for everything.
No problem. Hey, make sure you check out Talking with TD, because you have the best draft analyst in the world, Emory Hunt. He is the only guy that was at every single college all-star game. He's on the show this week.
I thought you were going to say the best draft analyst in the world, Chris Sanders, but second best draft analyst in the world. I kid. TD, thanks as always.
For sure.
Hall of Famer Warren Moon sits down with us next. We'll ask him the state of the Titans. How's it make him feel? We'll do it next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Predators, the Vols, and Vandy, and of the Stillman & Company program live out at Radio Row. Hiller's been in business since 1990, and they are a family-owned and operated company. That's right. Jimmy Hiller was recently named amongst the most admired CEOs because of the way he truly cares for his team and his clients. That's right. Hiller takes care of the customers on every job, every time. They stand behind their work with 100% satisfaction of happy you'll be here, the service is free, and I know this because I use Hiller at my home. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Learn more at happyhiller.com. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller. Call that fish truck today. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, live at Radio Row here on our program, and we are joined by a Hall of Famer and an Oilers legend, Warren Moon. Warren, good to see you, as always, here at the Super Bowl.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you. Here we are in the madness of Radio Row, but it's coming to an end here tomorrow, and then we're going to have a football game on the weekend, huh?
Okay, so I want to start with this. Warren, how much does the terribleness of the Titans depress you?
Well, it's not the terribleness. It's just that you want to see them have more success. You know, this is an organization that I played for 10 years. It's a proud organization. I love their owner. She's doing a lot of good things as far as building a new stadium, new facilities, all that. And she just wants to see her team be successful. I don't blame her. And she's trying to do whatever she can to make that happen, whether it's changing coaches, changing general managers. And now I think we might be looking for a quarterback. I'm not really sure where they're going with that. But they've got some decisions to make at that position. And I think once they get that position solidified, now you can move on and start winning football games and build around it.
I wonder, for somebody like you that did what you did in the CFL before you came to the NFL, when you look at a guy like Levis, how much of it is Levis just wasn't good enough, and how much of it was Levis just wasn't ready or put in the right opportunity to succeed?
Yeah, I think it was probably the latter. He just wasn't ready for it. He probably got put out there a little bit too quickly, and that happens to some guys. Everybody's not Jaden Daniels, and Jaden had, I don't know what, over 60 starts in the national in college football. So he came in a little bit more seasoned and ready. The offense they put him in was really geared for what his strengths were, and he did well with it. And he had the weapons around him. With Will, I don't know what he came out of at Kentucky. I don't know what the offense was that they ran. I don't know if he was ready to be the starter in his rookie year. So sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer. Even Patrick Mahomes didn't play his rookie year. I think he played the last game of the season. And I think just being able to sit and watch and learn behind Alex Smith was very, very beneficial for him.
Why do we not do that more in the NFL? Floyd told me that when they drafted Steve McNair, he went right downstairs and said he's sitting for 2 years. And then they developed him and everything. Now it's like you draft a guy and he's got to play right away. Why is it? Because the Titans may draft one of these quarterbacks with the first overall pick. Yeah. And if they do, don't you think the fans will demand that they put him out on the field?
That's part of the problem. I think a lot of the times they go by what that demand is. There's just a lot of, we want this guy, especially if the starter isn't doing well, or you put so much money and faith into a young guy, you want to put him out there as quickly as you can. And sometimes he's not ready, or the environment's not ready for him to be put out there. And a lot of a young quarterback having success has to do with the environment that he's put in, whether it's the players that are around him on both sides of the ball. You want to have a defense that can stop people just in case you make turnovers, and you want to have a running game that doesn't put all the pressure on the quarterback. And then you want to have an offensive system that really takes advantage of what that quarterback's strengths are. And sometimes that's not the case either. Sometimes the quarterback is asked to do things that he really can't do because that's the offensive coordinator's system.
Warren, we saw, you in Seattle saw Geno Smith kind of have a second act. What do you think of Sam Darnold's second act? And do you think that's a route the Titans should consider as they look to what you said, solidify the quarterback spot?
Yeah, I'm really proud of Sam in the year that he was able to turn things around. And it started when he went to San Francisco and got with Shanahan and really was able to just sit back, watch, learn. The pressure was off of him. And then when he got his chance to go to Minnesota, he made the most of it. I'm sorry that it ended the way it did the last couple of ball games, but I put a lot of that on the coaching staff, that they didn't put him in the situation where he could get the ball out of his hands quickly on a lot of those full-out blitzes that teams were coming with him in the last two games. They were just kind of sending the house, and he wasn't having an answer for it. So I think he is a really good quarterback. I think he's athletic enough. He throws a really good ball from all different areas. And I think what he's learned over the last few years from Kyle Shanahan and also in Minnesota, I think he's ready to take on another organization if they turn their back on him and want to go with J.J. McCarthy. So that's definitely an option for the Titans to go after a veteran quarterback who's had success in this league, and Sam has.
What do you think of these young quarterbacks? Shedeur Sanders, he's got the Dion kind of flair with him, but when it comes to these young quarterbacks that the Titans may consider, what do you think of them, or what you know of them?
neither one of them are rated in the top 10 players in the draft. I think they're like 14 and 17 or something like that. So that tells you right there that they're probably not ready to play year one. But I think they're both very talented. I think they both have had a lot of success in college football. They've both played a lot of games in college football. So they don't come in not being prepared enough, but I still think it would help both of them if they could sit and watch and learn just like a lot of other quarterbacks have. But again, like you said earlier, a lot of these teams are going to put the pressure on them to put that number 1 or number 2 draft pick in the league out on the field as quickly as they possibly can. And sometimes they won't be ready. And if they're not having success early, it could really ruin their confidence. We've seen it happen to so many guys over the years.
Warren Moon is with us. Warren, why is it every time the Titans decide to wear the Oiler throwbacks, the city of Houston gets all upset about it? And how do we put this to bed? Like, the Titans are the Oilers and the Texans are their own. Why do people get so offended?
They just don't understand. They don't understand that the Titans have the rights to that uniform and they get to wear it when they want to wear it. And if the Texans would have probably tried to take the rights way back when they started, they might have been able to buy the rights from the Oilers, but they didn't.
You think Bud Adams would have sold the rights to the Oilers to Houston?
He might have. I don't know.
Well, if the price was right, maybe he would have.
Yeah, you never know. But all I'm saying is Amy grew up as an Oiler, and she loves the Oilers, and she's brought us all back into the fold as far as our reunion and everything that's there. All the Oiler players come back for the reunions every year, and those uniforms are her property. So she uses them when she wants to use them, and she should have the rights to them. The Texans didn't want anything to do with the Oilers when the Oilers were there or when the Oilers left because they wanted to create their own identity, which I totally understand. But now you can't say because those uniforms can now be worn, now all of a sudden you want them. That's just not how it works.
What's funny to me is I remember when they were selling Tennessee Oilers stuff and nobody wanted to buy it because they wanted to wait till the new team. Now they sell the Oilers stuff and everybody wants to buy the Oilers stuff and not the Titan stuff.
Exactly.
Warren Moon's here on behalf of the NFL Alumni Association. Yep. I know, of course, you're also a big part with Al and everybody over with the Tennessee chapter of the NFL Alumni Association. You guys are here on behalf of cancer screenings. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a campaign called Gear Up Against Cancer, and we are encouraging people to go out and get screened for different types of cancers, colorectal cancer being one that a lot of people don't know. That's the leading cause of death of cancers in this country, and you don't a lot of times know you have it because it's really hard to detect. You don't have a lot of symptoms unless you go and get screened for it. So we're trying to make sure people get out and get screened, not only for colorectal cancer, but any type of cancer that could be possible in their body. We know how cancer has affected a lot of people's lives, whether it's the victim who actually has the cancer or the family or the friends. It affects everyone. And I just lost, my godmom like 3 months ago from cancer. And I have a buddy right now that has brain cancer, another buddy that has colon cancer. So I know how it affects people, and it's a terrible disease, and we have to do something to get rid of it. But in the meantime, we want you to get out and get early detection so we can at least try and treat it.
Warren, thank you as always for stopping. It's always good to see you every year.
Good to see you, brother. You take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Warren Moon, Stillman and Company. We continue 102.5 The Game. like with Vrabel, here's the thing. If you just like yuck it up with him and laugh, he's going to hate you. And if you push back on him, he's going to hate you. And you asked if there was one thing that I should tell you guys about Vrabel. You covered the team when he was on it, right?
Oh, yeah. As a player.
I bet you
good-
he liked you.
I had a good rapport with him. Absolutely.
You will not have a good relationship with him as the coach. He will hate you. Like, he will hate you. He will hate the
I
show.
could have told you that.
He will listen. He will listen to this program every single day. He will go into his car. He will light up a Marlboro Light, and he will listen.
He's not joking about this, Mike.
So he rips
butts.
Oh, yeah.
Still smokes, huh?
Oh, yeah. He will roll up into whatever the nice little, like, kind of
dunks.
Yeah, no, like a little pubby kind of sports bar. He'll roll up into that, and people will be like, "Yeah, I hear what Felga said about you on the show," and he's gonna just sit there and be like, I hate that guy," and he will truly mean it. That was me earlier today on the Felger and Mass program in Boston, and boy, we got a lot of response to that. So today, this all came about because I was just walking down the street and I ran into Felger, and I was like, "Hey, man." Like a bunch of people have come up to me, like random people, like random, have been like, "Man, heard you talk about Vrabel on Boston radio." I was like, "Really?" Like, yeah. It's like, okay. So Felger was like, "Come on the show." I said, "Okay." And then I was sitting there and I'm like, "So what do we do if I go on their show?" And so I just decided we'll just run their stream live. We won't tell them. We'll just run it, and then we'll tell them at the end. And we told them at the end, and everybody laughed. But we had some good moments with Vrabel. Let me say this. Maybe Vrabel is all that in a bag of chips. I think Vrabel's a good coach. But the key word is coach. When you ask Vrabel to do more, that's when I think he hurts himself. So we shall see. So I want to go through a kind of a potpourri and hit on some of the bigger topics here. Ian, do you think it has been brought to Mike Vrabel's attention that I went on Boston radio today?
Not yet, probably, no.
I think it has. I hope it has.
It's only
Gosh,
been an hour.
I hope it
It's only
has.
been an hour. Give us some time. It's dinner time.
I hope it has. Now, let me say this. I've said a 1,000 times I like Vrabel. I don't care if he likes me or not. I love that he is coaching another team because somebody is going to be right and somebody is going to be wrong. And I was in favor of firing Vrabel. Like firing him. Now, I would have fired Rand too, and it would have been totally different because I would have run the thing right. But again, I was in favor of that. If Vrabel wins, everybody will call Nashville stupid and the Titans stupid and Amy stupid forever. But I don't think he's going to. So I am excited I am rooting against him. I love him, but I'm rooting against. But I am excited because the Titans are going to be horrible this year, it looks like. And the Patriots are probably going to be horrible this year, it looks like. But at least we'll get, to watch that scoreboard. Number two, I see a lot of people commenting in the YouTube chat about Warren Moon on the program. I really enjoy talking to Warren. I enjoy talking to Warren every year. Ian, guess where Caroline and I ended up last night?
You said where?
Yeah.
I don't know, somewhere to eat?
Well, we did end up there, but after that, we ended up at the Club Shay Shay party last night.
Club Shay Shay. Oh, was that Shannon?
Shannon Sharp's party last night.
Okay. Was Ocho Cinco there too?
Oh my God. So this is why I brought this up with the Tecmo Bowl thing. Every single good player. This is what I kept saying last night. Every single good player from the Nintendo 64 era of the NFL was there. So like if you were good in 1998, you were there last night. If you're good now, you weren't there. But if you were good then in 98, you were there. Cool. We walked in the front door and there's Michael Irvin with like a lime in his mouth as soon as we walk in. It was like, okay. And
we found the place.
All I can say, it was a good party, but all I can say, and Caroline and I ended up kind of bailing out there pretty quickly, but all I can say is, if you were to think, if Shannon Sharp owned a nightclub, what would it look like? That was the Club Shay Shay party last night. And
no Insta Lives, right?
No Insta Lives. But Chad Withrow did take a picture with Warren and somebody else last night. And Hutton says to me, he goes, "You're going to have to bust Chad tomorrow on the hot seat about this because I mean, he goes, Chad's the only person at the Club Shay Shay party taking pictures. And I was like, I am going to have to bust his chops about that one. There was a little Predators news, a little Predators nugget. Ian, I don't know if you saw this, but I got the email today from the Predators that they have recalled Joakim Kimmel.
I got the email too.
I mean, they have recalled Joakim Kimmel from AHL Milwaukee. Let me say this.
I think they said he will be making his debut Friday night.
That probably is the only reason why they would. I mean, it wouldn't have made sense to recall him if they didn't play him, right?
Probably not, but I think Brunette confirmed that today.
Let me say this. I'm here for it. This is one of the guys. There aren't that many. This is one of the guys who's supposed to be like an impact young player that's going to come in here and make a difference, supposedly. And the key word there is supposedly. Because we've been through this with Ellie Tolvanen, and we've been through this with Tomasino, and we've been through this. I expect this guy to be good. And I know the prospect gurus don't love him as much as I feel like probably the Predators do. But this guy scores in the AHL. And again, I don't want to sound like a doofus with the most rudimentary hockey take, but the Predators, since their incarnation, have always been in need of somebody that can score. And so I hope they put him on a line. If I were the Predators, I'd put him on a line with Forsberg and Stamkos. Stamkos is centering it. Kimmel, you and Forsberg on the same line. But I'm like. Here's the one thing I will say though. I need him to be good. Like I need him to not like Luke Evangelista good, not like hey he can play in the bottom six of an NHL. No, I need him to be good. I need him to be at the worst a good second line winger, and I need it pretty quickly because they're going to have some different players on this team next year. So when I saw that, I got excited because even though the Predator season is lost and it would not hurt them to lose tomorrow night and to lose to Buffalo on Saturday, I think I'm going to the game. It would not hurt them to lose those games. But at the same time, I do want to see this young guy play, and I want to see him play now. And I want to see him play well. Again, you don't have to be an all-star right away, but you need to show me that one day you can be an all-star, which is what I am really, really looking forward to. Also, I did see something. Jim Wyatt caught up with Jeffrey Simmons out here at Radio Row. So Jeffrey Simmons did Radio Row, and I don't think Jeffrey Simmons did like a local Nashville interview. That's bad. Like when you're the captain of the team and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna just go get paid. But I guess the quote I saw from Jim Wyatt was something along the lines of Simmons wants to be a better leader for the young players. Brother, let's stop worrying about being a good leader when it comes to Simmons. Let's get other leaders in here to lead the team. Let's just you worry about getting after the quarterback and not worry about leading. That's it for us. Loaded show tomorrow. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, will be on the show. Kurt Schilling will be on the show tomorrow. We got tons of former guys on there as well. Caroline is going to stop by tomorrow on the program as well. And, of course, we'll preview the big game. Live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 59, Stillman & Company. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 2.